All right, we're ready to roll.
Alrighty. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the August 21st meeting of the Bridgewater Planning Board. This meeting is being held remotely in accordance with the provisions of the open meeting law pursuant to the governor's appointment of a supplemental budget bill. Temporary provisions pertaining to the open meeting law have been extended to March 31st, 2025. Specifically, this further extension allows public bodies to continue holding meetings remotely without a quorum of the public body physically present at the meeting location, and to provide adequate and alternative access to remote meetings. The language of this extension does not make any substantial changes to the open meeting law other than extending the expiration date of the temporary provisions regarding remote meetings from March 31st, 2023 to March 31st, 2025. Members of the public are encouraged to participate remotely and shall ask questions to the chair of the board. In attendance tonight, we have Stephen Geller. I'm sorry. Pull this up here.
Do you want me to say who's in attendance, Mr. Chair?
Thank you. Yeah.
Sure. We have Michael McDonald, Vice Chair. We have Stephen Geller, Clerk. Astrid Rojas, Ted Haley, MJ Spagone, an Associate Member. Staff-wise, we have Director of Community and Economic Development, Bob Rulli. We have our Building Inspector, Stephen Solari. We have Town Engineer, Greg Tansey, and I myself am Town Planner, Shane O'Brien.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Mr. O'Brien. Okay, and with that, I believe we're good to begin. We'll start with our first public hearing. 259 Summer Street, Lot 2, Map 48, Lot 164, which is a special permit to construct a duplex in a residential Z zone. This is continued from our August 7th meeting.
Yeah, and just to clarify that, Mr. Chair, it was continued in the sense of postponed because we didn't have enough board members to act on a special permit. We only had 3 board members in attendance, and we needed at least minimally 4 board members to hear a special permit, as it would require a majority vote of the majority vote of the board. So I do have the public hearing noticed as originally advertised. If you'd just like to read it into the record, and we are ready to roll.
Excellent. Thank you. Just to save time, I'll note that that is going to be the case for all of our public hearings that we hear tonight, as far as the continuations went. On Wednesday, August 7th, 2024 at 6:30 p.m., the Bridgewater Planning Board will conduct a public hearing via Zoom on an application by 259 Summer Street Realty Trust for a special permit to construct a new duplex home in a residential D district located at Leonard Street, Bridgewater, Mass. The plans were prepared by Silva Engineering Associates, PC, and are on file with the town clerk and CED office and website. All interested persons are encouraged to attend. Bridgewater Planning Board.
And just a note to it, it was advertised on 7/24/2024 and 7/31/2024 in the Brockton Enterprise. But other than that, we have the applicant here, and they are ready to roll.
All righty, you may begin when they're ready.
Good evening. Larry Silva from Silva Engineering Associates. Office is at 1615 Bedford Street in Bridgewater. And so the one that you opened up was Lot 2 only. So we're going to handle them separately, I take it?
That's how it's written before me.
Yes, correct. They were 2 separate legal notices, so we're going to have to take them as 2 different items.
All right, because it'll be a little bit redundant, but so basically the Lot 2, as you see here, was a part of what was a lot 259 Summer Street. So 259 Summer Street, the home faces summer. It's out more towards the front. There was a long backyard to it, if you want to say that, the remaining land. And that was divided into 2 additional lots, which was brought to the planning board, endorsed by the planning board. And so you can see there, Lot 1's the existing home, Lot 2 and Lot 3 are the 2 lots that were created behind it. So if this is the application for Lot 2. We're in the residential D zone, which allows for matter of right, single family with 125 feet of frontage and 18,500 square feet of area. And for a duplex, It's also 125 feet of frontage, but the area requirement jumps to 20,000 square feet, and it's a special permit from the planning board, and that's the reason why we're here. That special permit historically had been under the jurisdiction of the Board of Appeals up to a couple of years ago, and it was moved over to the planning board. And I think you've only probably had one in front of you since that time, probably the one on Broad Street, I think might have been the only one. So in this particular case, we're showing a duplex unit and has a common driveway coming out to Leonard Street. So these will have Leonard Street addresses, even though they were carved out of the Summer Street property. It's meets the requirements of both 125-foot frontage at the street and at the setback line. And then it also meets the requirement of 20,000 square feet in area. As far as there were some comments that were received, which we've made some adjustments to the plan. As you can see, the revision date is 8/19. We added roof drainage recharge on either side of the house dwelling, and then also added some shade trees in the front yard. These were in response to comments that had come forward based on the review. It'll be connected to municipal water and sewer in Leonard Street. There was a question about how it might be heated or how, what kind of energy source. There is gas available. Either way, I don't know if a selection has been made as to whether or not it'll be electric or natural gas fired. Be high efficiency either way. It's going to meet the code requirements allow. I think that's pretty much it. It's there's really not much more to it at this point, and I'm asking that the board grant the special permit that's needed for us to take the next step of going forward to get a building permit.
Okay, so thank you very much, Mr. Silva. Any questions from the board? I see that Mr. Tanzi did complete his technical review, and if I'm reading this correctly, Mr. Tanzi, you didn't find any issues during that review?
No, I didn't. I don't really have any issues.
Okay, excellent. Well, if there's no current questions from the board, I guess we'll turn it over to any public comment that are here for this.
So if you have a public comment, please raise your virtual hand or say that if you have a question. Oh, we have a person. Chris. All right, Chris, I'm going to unmute you.
Gentlemen, who owns the land?
Who owns, Larry, can you refer to who the applicant
The
owner is?
current owner shown on the plan is 259 Summer Street Realty Trust.
Yeah, well, who owns the business then? Who owns Realty Trust?
Realty Trust is a realty trust. It's not an ownership. There's a deed to and it has holdings, real estate holdings.
So there's no.
I mean, it's a matter of record. It's not something that's hidden or anything. It's a matter of record. I know that I believe Paul Sincotter and I believe Pat Driscoll may be involved in the trust, but I don't know the particulars of the realty trust myself.
Is Paul part of the planning board?
No, Paul is not part of a planning board. He's a builder.
Oh, is Pat Driscoll part of the planning board?
Yes, he's
a
the chair.
member of the planning board, and that is the reason why he recused himself.
Yeah. Okay. Can I? I'm sorry. No, just want to kind of prevent cross contamination. What seems to be the question, sir?
The question is conflict of interest at this meeting.
Okay. The chairman is recusing himself on this matter.
No, you don't have any relationship that you would favor him?
No, we would treat everyone equally in terms of a disclosure. Additionally, too, Mr. Driscoll has, in the form of a family trust, has been an applicant before a planning board in the past. He just
Alright.
cannot vote on matters on himself.
May I ask a question, or do you have others in line to ask questions?
Are you on the same phone call, or
Yes, we are. We're on
can
the
you
same.
also, can you state your name and your address as well, please?
Sure. Chris and Russ Ventura, 32 Leonard Street.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, you can ask your question.
Okay, so what's the current zoning for that property? Would it only be for single-family homes? Is that why we need the variance?
To clarify that, there's no variance being asked here. This is a special permit. So single-family houses are allowed by right within the residential D district, and duplexes or two families require a special permit before the planning board. The applicant is before the zoning, or was before the zoning board for a variance for the property at 259 Summer Street for setback issues based on the historical barn. From my understanding, that was withdrawn, and the applicant is now looking for a variance. They have an application within our department for an application for a variance from frontage from the setback for lot 2.
Shane, can you explain what is the difference? I'm not sure I know what the difference is from the first one to the second one.
All right, so what we're looking at is the allowed use of a duplex within a residential D district. So this planning board is looking at the use itself, not necessarily the dimensions of this. So they're
Okay.
looking at the use of a duplex within this district and if it conforms to the special permit standards. Whereas variances, the frontage at the setback means that the applicant doesn't meet the dimensional requirements for frontage at the setback for lot 2. Therefore, they need a dimensional variance from lot 2 from the zoning ordinance, from the zoning board of appeals. So only the zoning board of appeals can allow for variances, whereas this planning board is the special permit granting authority for duplexes in residential C and D zones.
I think one of my major concerns is how do we restrict college students from being, I understand that this is all about permission for duplexes, but I think that one of the main concerns that I have, and I know several neighbors have, is college students living in these duplexes. Is there a way that we can restrict that?
I would say that it's difficult to restrict from the sense of fair housing. I would say the zoning ordinance is very abundantly clear in terms of lodging housing as well as non-family members living together. I think our zoning specifies that no more than 3 non-family members can live together. But in terms of rental units, I would say that I can't speak on behalf of the applicant. I would let the applicant kind of speak on that. But in terms of just from a town perspective, they can't violate what our zoning ordinance allows for lodging houses, as well as having more than 3 family members. So, but there's language in Fair Housing Act that we can't restrict housing from particular groups of people. But I'll send it over to the applicant if Larry, you can answer that question.
Well, I mean, I think that you've kind of answered it. I mean, I would say there's no intention to have that to be what your concern is, but it really is not germane to the issue here. It's really, that's an enforcement issue that comes under zoning bylaws and the building inspector, he's on the line here, but basically it falls into if something violated the number of unrelated people living in a unit, then that's something that becomes his jurisdiction. It does have nothing to do with zoning.
do you know if these townhouses will be being sold or being rented? Do we know that?
You asked,
I guess,
through
yeah,
the
you,
chair,
Larry.
can I answer? Or I have no knowledge as to what the specific intent is in this particular case. I know that in the past there have been projects that have been developed in which they were sold off, and others that were retained for longer term rental income. I really don't know that there is an intention that I'm aware of. I really don't know.
Shane, Mr. Zincata is here. Why don't we just have him answer the questions rather than his engineer try to answer the questions?
Sure, I just say that as Larry being the applicant, but if Mr. Sincata would like to speak.
Not seeing him on the thing, but I might just, oh, there he is.
Yes, it's our intention the units will be sold, but that does not preclude anyone from renting a unit.
Thanks. All right, do you have any other questions pertaining to the site plan, special permit?
Okay, anybody else in the public you see, Mr. O'Brien?
Not at this time. I don't see any virtual hands raised, nor do I see anyone in the chat.
Okay, any board commentary at this time?
Just have a couple comments, Mr. Chair.
Well, good.
Larry, I know that you guys produced a new ZBA plan that shows different lot lines for lot 2. Is your intent to roll with this site plan or look to do a modification in the future for the special permit in terms of the lot lines? And this isn't speaking towards an A&R plan.
My answer to you is the same as my answer to anyone who would ask that question, including my clients. Okay? That when you have something that's before you, it's what's before. What could or conceivably be done with something in the future is the future. Whether or not the future is something that I can't say what an action might be in a month or 2 years. Well,
Sure.
whatever.
May I ask a question?
It's what's
then?
before you.
All right. What's the purpose of the proposed 20-foot access easement?
That 20-foot access easement would be that if the bond required having some access from that area, then by creating the duplex in this way, we've already built it into the plan and don't have to go back and try to recreate it at some point where we maybe have a buyer for that unit.
So is the
Clarification.
There's no, it's, I would say, don't read into the easement. I mean, it's just that it's a reason.
I got to, it's on the plan.
But the
I know, I
ZBA, Mr. Silva, the ZBA conditionally approved a variance based on a revised plan. And the application that included this plan that was before the ZBA was withdrawn by the applicant. You weren't there, but they were represented. So my question is, why are we, I mean, so in essence, if you're going forward with this plan, then there's no variance and you're still going to have to go back to the ZBA again. Because their approval was conditioned on.
There is
changing that
no
line.
approval that was given. There's no approval from the zoning board.
You weren't at the meeting, I was.
I understand, but there was not a hearing. The hearing, as Mr. Solari will tell you, is that had to be a separate application in order to address it as it relates to lot 2 versus lot 1, which it was. The application that was before them was lot 1.
Right, but so we're gonna start this process all over again. You're looking for approval on a plan that's not gonna be approved by the zoning board.
I don't follow that at all.
Okay.
This is lot 2. Lot 2 has nothing to do with the zoning board. And the plan that's before you is has nothing to do with the zoning board.
You in this, okay. So Larry, this does reflect the A&R plan that you have before you got approved by the planning
That
board.
is correct. This is based on the current lot configuration. That's
Sure.
all it is.
So my question is in terms of that access easement, is it the intent for the lot 2 property owners to utilize the historic barn?
If it ever came that it could be utilized in that way. If it can't, then it's a moot point. It doesn't need to be there.
All right,
The
I just
easement doesn't need to be there at that point.
just had a question because it was on the plan.
Yeah, that's all it is.
But yeah, I understand our point in terms of we do have an application before us for the ZBA showing.
But it hasn't been heard. It has not been heard.
I understand, but you know, once something's stamped in, it's also public record. I'm just saying that there's the point is that if this were to change, I guess you need to decide if you want to go down a path of waiting for those lot lines to change for this particular lot, or if you in the future are looking for a modification for a special permit based on changes, because this is something you cannot proceed. The board can grant, I guess, a special permit based on this current configuration, but
Yes.
understanding that if you present this as a building permit, I would not accept it, and you would need to modify the special permit, which would require another public hearing before this board.
And why would it not be able to get a building permit?
Because you're showing a plan that doesn't match was approved. This plan
This
is
is
part
the
of the
plan that was
record.
approved.
Okay, Larry, if this plan is part of the special permit record, if you give me a plan where the lot lines change,
Oh,
then
that's
that
totally
doesn't
different.
match. So
Totally different.
that's what I mean. So I'm just
Okay.
saying, if your intent is to adjust the lot lines to pursue a variance for frontage at the setback at lot 2, I'm saying you can proceed as is, but you're going to look for a modification of a special permit, which will require a public hearing, re-notification, and you go from there. Whereas you can also postpone and look to adjust the lot lines based on that. So I'm just letting you know the options.
What you don't have, you don't have. And having an idea of how to deal with lot 1 and the issue of the bond, as we thought in the first application about that, we thought we had a way to deal with it. That didn't go forward. There's nothing to say that even in a revised approach, which is being submitted at this point, that it'll be successful or not. And we don't know whether or not that could be appealed. So
Sure.
To know that you have the ability to go forward as a matter of right or as a matter of special permit to go this direction is a preferred way to go. Not based on what may be in the future. We had a discussion about it and this is what was decided.
All right.
We understand that we would have to come back and have an amendment to it if we did anything different than what was shown here.
No, we just understand that there needs to be a variance on either lot 1 or lot 2 to clean things up, because then either or you're dealing with a zoning violation on lot 1, self-created, or you're looking to adjust that off of lot 1 and then requesting the variance that you guys are in the process of having an application for.
Yeah, right now the issue on lot 1 is the bond needs to be a variance, has to be moved, or it has to be raised.
Mhm.
It's a legal lot. Lot 1's a legal lot with that condition.
No, we understand.
Okay.
Mr. O'Brien, just to make sure I understand. So are you saying, or are you not saying that if we were to approve this special permit, would we be creating a violation on the existing lot 1?
Lot 1 already has an existing violation on it. The applicant created that. It's
Okay,
just a matter of during that process, the applicant had been pursuing a variance for lot 1. The applicant has withdrawn that variance since that time, and at the suggestion of the Zoning Board of Appeals, is looking for a variance on lot 2, which would allow for lot 1 to be conforming And that the barn would be compliant with our setback requirements, whereas lot 2, the issue would be that they would need a variance, not for frontage, but frontage at the setback. So we have a certain requirement for amount of frontage you need at the setback.
Now,
But
if
as
this,
we stand, lot 2 is unencumbered with any kind of issue.
okay, so
Correct.
if we were to hypothetically proceed with this tonight, we would not be creating or worsening any kind of issue for the zoning
Nope.
board. Okay, thank you very much.
No, but there's potential. What I would say is that there's potential. There's potential in the future where the applicant would need to modify the special permit. So if they go before the zoning board with what they have and receive a variance, they would need to come back before this board with an amended plan, as well as an amended A&R plan, and which would require public notice as well as another hearing before us.
And the applicant knows that risk.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I've said it, I guess. a
Okay.
couple
I've said
times,
it
so-
too.
So.
Okay,
So, Mr. Chair, I have one more question.
of course.
I can't seem to find some of the public comments were there, and I'm not sure if it was lot 2 or lot 3 about discussing about water runoff onto the people's property. Have we addressed any of that? Was that this lot or was it lot 3?
It's for lot 3, but I can answer that. Through the process.
If it's for lot 3, Shane, let's just keep it on lot 3. We're just
Sure,
not-
I could, but I can do it across the board. I can say for lot 2, through the memo, we did request that the applicant provide roof drains. So on the previous original plans, there weren't roof drains. So to prevent for additional drainage to come off the site, we've asked for the applicant to maintain everything through roof drains. So that will
Okay.
definitely help in terms of preventing for offsite drainage.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, I just want to note, I did see the member of the public with their hand raised. We will get back to you after we do a round of board and staff comments. Mr. O'Brien, did you have any other points?
No, I just, in terms of my memo, my biggest thing was making sure that the applicant complied with the special permit standards, which they pretty much do. We just had a question in terms of the roof drains, as well as if there's any trees to be removed at the site, that maybe additional trees be planted. I just want to also reiterate, Mr. Silva stated that these projects have common driveways. I understand what he said. We don't allow for common driveways, but I think his point is that the driveways are shared.
We have a single driveway for a duplex.
Sure. Just wanted to clarify that in terms of not violating what our common driveways zoning ordinance state.
Okay,
Just trying to keep it clean.
it's an uncommon driveway.
It's a different.
And you find that to be an exceptional explanation?
Myself, or are you saying to Larry?
You so.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, that works for me too. As I said, I saw a member of the public with their hand raised. I believe it was the previous 2 speakers. I want to get them back.
Right, we have virtual hands raised. Oh, Chris, you have your hand raised. All right. All right.
So I just wanted to ask, what was the, Shane, you mentioned about a violation, and I didn't know what that violation was. And also I was wondering about that 20-foot easement. Who owns that 20-foot easement? Is that the homeowner on that property, on that lot?
I guess I can answer the question that you asked in terms of what is current based on the A&R plan. The applicant has a zoning violation based on the historic barn's proximity to the lot lines. So we're aware of that, but we're also aware of the applicant looking to alleviate that through the variance process. So that's what I can respond to. In regards to the 20-foot easement, I will leave that up to the applicant.
The easement is solely for the owner of the lot, and whether or not he exercises, or the wording of what it encumbers has not been granted to anyone. It's just basically, it's a placeholder to say that this is, if there was going to be an access easement into the area where that bond was, or for whatever reason. It's been provided there. It may go away. It may go away because it may not be needed at all. But it has no significance to the duplex.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Silva. Thank you to the residents. If we have no further public comment, do we have any questions or comments from the board at this time, or should we?
I have a question. Or
Oh, please,
it's
Mr. Haley.
it's yes, it's based on my ignorance, but so I buy lot 1 and I want to put down some gravel for that basement driveway that goes into that easement side. But what does that mean to me as a homeowner, property owner for lot 1? What would I have to do?
You don't have no right to do anything.
Nothing, right? So we just said, I'm sorry, Larry, I didn't hear you.
There is no agreement with lot 1 regarding an easement, so. They have no right to cross the property line.
Okay, so I guess from a board sense, do we have comfort if the access easement is removed from the plan? Because essentially, Larry, you can't grant an easement to yourself. Because right now, everything's owned by 259 Summer Street LLC, and then they're
Correct.
granting an easement through themselves. So would you think it would be cleaner just to remove the access easement? And if you guys down the road want to pursue this as presented and get a variance for lot 1 or whatever process, then you guys can add it amongst property
If
owners.
it's adding confusion, then we can just take it off the plan.
That's perfect.
Alrighty. Anything else, Mr. Haley? Was that it for you?
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Spigot, anything?
I don't genuinely have anything. I'm just a little apprehensive on taking a vote on it tonight. If there's still stuff that needs to be changed on this to bring it better in concurrence with our regulations and the issue with the easement, I probably wouldn't be comfortable voting with it tonight until everything's been, checked against it and confirmed that it's all in good standing. At this point, I myself would not be comfortable participating in a vote on it tonight.
Mr. O'Brien, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe everything in this current plan as shown is in good standing. It's just questions about future concerns
Yeah, it's
on
questions
the other
about
lot.
it's question about a potential ZBA application regarding lot 2, which exists because I've seen, as well as the access easement. So I guess it's a question of comfort before the board to say, does lot 2 become something else, or the shape of lot 2 change? Not necessarily the use itself, but what we're looking at from a lot perspective change, being that there's another plan that's out there showing lot 1 being compliant with zoning, whereas lot 2 would require a variance. So it's understandable, but I did lay both options out there where the applicant, if they're going to need to do a variance for lot 2, they're going to have to modify the special permit anyways. But I understand the comfort of a plan before the board and approving a plan before the board that's going to be what's built. I understand that. Which doesn't
And to add to that, Shane, my level of comfort is such as that because there's a lot of ifs or ands and whens with relation to lot 2, it gives me pause to say, well, if we don't follow through on something, then you shouldn't be thinking about what's going to happen on the future part of that lot. Because if we take one action and they go ahead with something else entirely different, it's puts us in a different situation down the road. And that's sort of what I'm trying to get at. I'm not really comfortable having that conversation because it goes into the, and forgive me if I sound wrong, but I'm just trying to get that out there, is that it sounds like we're setting it up for an if or when they want to go ahead with this particular thing with lot 2, are we enabling them to do that or completely change it entirely and go ahead with something else? That's where my concern is.
I would say that it wouldn't change entirely. I would say that what would change would essentially be that the line along you see that line, how it jogs in like a lightning bolt at the right side? That's just straight
Mhm.
down. That's the
Yeah.
difference between the plans.
So-
So that would establish essentially that barn being 20 feet away from the lot line, but the applicant would need a variance from the building setback box.
Alright, so Mr.
And
Chair-
as it stands right now, by virtue of that barn's existence on there right now, lot 1 has that violation in place. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay,
It's not a-
so if we
When you say
vote on,
violation.
Zoning
Shane,
violation.
when you say violation, it doesn't mean violation. There are 3 options for that bond.
I know you can knock it down.
Variance,
I'm just
move
saying,
it, or remove it.
I know it said it on the A&R plan, but A&R plans, we're not looking for actionable items. If you knock the barn down, then there's no zoning violation. But
Right.
if it were to exist, it maintains as a zoning violation. I would say from a town perspective, we're not sending a letter out to you because we understand that you are taking action toward resolving either lot 2 now to remove a violation by receiving a dimensional variance. So we understand that you're going through that process, so we're not going, attacking on this.
I think the confusing part is that whole issue of a variance or a possible variance on that is all possible, but it's also tomorrow, it may not be there. We're just dealing with lot 2, everything legal about it. There's nothing that's even outside of,
No,
it's not even a squint. It's a lot. The house is there, everything, it meets all the requirements. And all we're looking for is to have special permit granted for the duplex.
I guess okay. So
Oh.
my position is that I agree, Larry. I'm just saying that down the road, when you guys pursue the variance for lot 2, you're coming back before this board for a public hearing in a modification, which is a time-consuming process. So
Mr.
I'm just
Chair,
trying to
but-
see if you, as an applicant, want to pursue this as with the lot lines amended or looking for the future to modify the special permit.
Shane, I'm gonna say it very simply. It
Mr.
may be
Chair-
tomorrow that
Mr.
it's
Chair, may I-
decided that they're never gonna pursue the rest of that and that application gets withdrawn. We don't know that.
Well, then we send a violation letter. Steve,
Go
you
ahead,
said
Mr.
something?
Geller.
Right, but what I'm saying is, it's really about lot 2 and lot 2 by itself.
Mr.
Okay,
Chair.
thank you, Larry. We got a board member that wants to speak.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to just bring it back that what is before us is lot 2. What happens in lot 1, they are actually creating the issue themselves. And they are going, and whether they decide to pursue it or not, our job tonight is to vote on lot 2. Now, we could do lot 2 as a condition to remove the easement and move forward with this, and then the applicant realizes that if they go and change the lot, it is another process that they need to come back to us. And I think that's been pretty clearly stated tonight, over the past, 40 minutes of this one project. So I understand it, but I think we're getting a little ahead of us because we can't predict the future. We don't know what's gonna happen. And if it's gonna be a violation, it's gonna be a violation. They're gonna end up tearing down that beautiful barn. Do I think they're gonna do that? I don't know, but we have to think about what's before us and what's here now, and what they decide to do later is really up to the applicant. I mean, they're creating their own headache. We're not creating it for them.
I agree completely, Mr. Geller, and the applicants demonstrated a clear understanding of the situation that they would have to return, depending on what happens in the future or may not. So I agree. I think we should review
And
what's
they
in front of
know-
us, and they're well aware. So
So Tangela, you say something?
No, didn't have anything really to add.
Okay.
Okay, just, Mr. O'Brien, I'm having some small, PC issues. Did you have any, proposed conditions for this?
Yes, I did provide some proposed conditions within the memorandum. I can pull it up.
Yeah, like I'm having a web browser issue. It's not opening for me.
Shane, do they need to close the public hearing first?
Yes, do we have any other, Mr. Chair, can you check if there's any more public comment as well as a vote for the close of the public hearing if the board wants to pursue that?
I am not seeing any hands raised currently, so I'll make one last call for any additional public comment. I believe,
Don't see any hands raised at this time.
okay. Well, do we, oh, we have, yeah, the same resident would like to speak one more time.
All right. Let me get it pull up the screen.
They put their hands down. I think it was an hour.
Well,
I think it only pops up for a couple seconds at a time. That might
either
be-
that or they're trying to unmute themselves.
Let me try
We'll give
Chris.
him a quick
All
minute.
right, Chris, what you got?
Yeah. Just a quick comment. I understand the three possibilities of the barn. And to even consider that the barn be moved or raised is so upsetting to those of us who live here. It's the historical value is beyond belief. So I would just ask that you work around that because, sorry.
Oh, we're not talking about the barn. We're talking about a lot adjacent to it. So
Okay,
it's
sorry.
not it's not this board's determination to knock down the
Okay.
barn.
Okay, so sorry.
It's okay. But I understand and appreciate your comment.
Yes, thank you very much. Okay, with that said, I don't see any other hands raised. Do we have a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion to close the hearing, Mr. Chairman?
Second.
Thank you. Motion by Ms. Pagone, second by Mr. Haley. Any discussion? I'll do the roll. Mr. Geller,
Yes.
Mr. Haley,
Yes.
Ms. Pagone,
No.
Ms. Rojas,
Yes.
and I'm a yes.
All right, let me share the what I have for possible decision language. So I did provide this over to the board memos. No further waivers, walkways clear, hours of construction typical 7 through 5, 9 to 5. The provisions of the special permit be binding on the landowner and applicant. Site lighting be down lighting. Does not prevent them from any other modifications, curb ramps, plant species changes. Approval does not clear anyone of responsibility of federal action. Public works approval, sidewalk, cleaning up construction debris, failure to comply with zoning ordinances. Prior to endorsement, making sure that the applicant provides us a Mylar of the plan that's endorsed by you yourself, Mr. Chair, as well as information prior to construction and then prior to occupancy as well as post occupancy. So I provided essentially 26 conditions for the board to consider. You know, a lot of these are very similar to what I incorporated in the last special permit for the duplex. So I leave it up to the board for those that language to be considered.
And I don't believe I saw any kind of project specific language in there. It's kind of our standard conditions for this kind of.
Yeah, and I think the only thing that we would ask as an additional comment would be the removal of the access easement as we discussed earlier. So I would add that as a condition.
Okay, do we have any thoughts on it? Is that something we'd like to see? Personally, I don't really have an issue with the easement either way, but if people want to see it gone, then we can add that in there.
Either way.
I don't have an issue with it.
Any thoughts, Mr. Geller
Well-
or Mr. Haley?
I think I have to, agree with Mr. O'Brien. You can't give an easement to yourself. So, I guess I would like to see it removed for now.
Yeah, and just
Okay.
as well as that too, I'm comfortable if the applicant looks to record an easement when there's a sale between owners. That doesn't have to go before this board, but at this time, I just think it's something that doesn't need to be on the plan and just is causing a little confusion.
Okay, that makes sense.
Can
Mr. Haley, oh, yep, of course, Mr. Silva.
I ask one clarification on one of the conditions?
Yes.
Shane, did you mention Mylar?
Oh, I apologize. Well, the decision itself has to be recorded. I'm sorry. We just needed 3 endorsed
Yeah.
plans for your record. But the special
Okay.
permit, I apologize. The Mylar doesn't need to be recorded, but the special permit decision itself has to be recorded at the registry.
Agreed.
Okay, so we have a proposed set of conditions and probably one additional. I think we'd like to make a proposal one way or another.
I'll make a motion to approve the special permit for lot number 2 with the addition comment of removing the easement from the plans. That's it. With all
Motion by Mr.
general.
Derek. Thank you.
I'll-
We have a motion by Mr. Geller and a second by Mr. Haley.
Yes.
Any further discussion? In that case, I will take the roll call. Mrs. Rojas,
Yes.
Mrs. Spagone,
Just a clarification, Mr. Chairman, before I take a vote, I apologize, part of my connection blanked out, my screen is not working, and some of the sound is not working,
no problem.
this is for the conditions that the board just affirmed on 4-1, right?
That was to close the public hearing.
Okay,
It is more or
This is
less
for the vote of approval of the special permit.
all right, okay. All right,
and as far as the conditions, it is more or less standard with the additional one of removing the easement. I don't know if
Correct.
you were
That'd be
able
the
to hear
memo.
the
That'd be the
discussion.
conditions I sent off to the memo from I think August 7th.
okay. All right, I will vote yes on it.
Okay, Mr. Haley,
Yes.
Mr. Geller,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Passes
All right.
5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All righty,
Well, next-
I wouldn't go anywhere yet, Larry. You're up again. So moving on to our next public hearing, also 259 Summer Street, but lot 3 this time. A special
Oh.
permit. Oh, am I?
Let me pull,
doing
yeah,
something?
let me pull up the legal notice so we can read it.
Oh,
together.
yes, thank you.
I have highlighted the differences between the two in the legal notice to help us out.
Excellent. So it is a special permit to construct a duplex in a residential D zone. Also continued from August 7th due to lack of quorum. I will read the public hearing notice in. On Wednesday, August 7th, 2024 at 6:30 p.m., the Bridgewater Planning Board will conduct a public hearing via Zoom on an application by 259 Summer Street Realty Trust for a special permit to construct a new duplex home in a residential D district located at Leonard Street, displayed as Lot 3 on the A&R plan, formerly part of 259 Summer Street, Bridgewater, Mass. The plans are prepared by Silva Engineering Associates, PC, and are on file with the town clerk and CED office and website. All interested persons are encouraged to attend Bridgewater Planning Board to be advertised on 7/24/24 and 7/31/24 in the Brockton Enterprise. All right, Mr. Silva, take it away.
Larry Silva, Silver Engineering Associates. Rebecca, could you bring up that same plan? The form, the one where the lot comes from and then the lot itself. Okay, so we're talking about lot 3 on the Form A plan, the one that's furthest over to the left. We just dealt with the one that was in the middle. Okay, and then as you can see, it's got its frontage on Leonard Street, 125. It's got the required area for a duplex. And from that, we'll go to the site plan itself. Okay, and it's very similar looking to the one that we just looked at. The duplex sits, there's a, I'll call it an uncommon driveway. It's the driveway that serves the duplex. Both units come out to the street in the same location. And in this one here also, in response to the comments that had been indicated We have provided for roof drain recharge systems. And we have 2 proposed red maples that would be on either side of the driveway location. Same thing, it's served by water and sewer. There is a gas line in the street. Not sure whether or not gas will be the source of the system. I know that question had been asked, or whether or not it'll be by electric. I don't think a decision's been made on that at this point. Pretty much that's it. And with that, I'd answer whatever questions that you might have. This one should be more straightforward, I would think.
Okay. I don't, probably, maybe I didn't catch it on the last set of plans. What is that? It almost looks like another driveway extending off to the right into lot 2. Can you explain what that is in the plan?
Driveway coming off to the right.
That's the grade, that's the grade.
Oh,
plan.
is that just a grading line? Okay. Yeah, that line,
Yeah,
okay.
it's the grading line.
Yeah, it
Oh,
looks like,
I
it looks like a driveway.
Okay, that's my mistake. Thank you. All right. Mr. Tanzi, did you have any commentary on this one?
I had a few, but they've all been answered. My major concern was runoff and just making sure that they had adequate utilities and access to them. And those questions have been have satisfied me.
Okay, excellent. Mr. O'Brien, any comments?
Larry, gonna be surprised. No, I'm fine with this one. I didn't see any plans of the lot lines changing for this one. I'm satisfied with the additional parts of the additional trees, as well as the roof drains. We did have some concerns about runoff, but I think the applicant is doing a fair job in terms of matching existing topography. So, we've typically seen duplexes in the past where the duplex itself is higher than everything else and everything just drains off. But no, the applicant is looking at existing topography and trying to match it well with the area. So I think that's appropriate. So I don't have any other further comments than that.
Okay, excellent. And so just to head off, probably an inevitable question. There will be, no matter what happens with lot 1 and 2, this one would presumably not, that's not being any modifications sought in the future for this. What we're seeing is what will be
God,
gotten.
I hope
plan.
not.
I'm gonna give you the same stock answer. I can't, sure, but this, what they propose to do here, it's a duplex. I don't see it. It's not like there's lots of other options or any other kinds of issues that sort of relate to this lot. So I would say I don't think you'll see any changes to this at all.
Okay, excellent. Alrighty, and we'll turn it over to any other board questions or comments at this time.
Nope, you answered it in the last question.
Okay, excellent. I guess we will turn it over to any public commentary at this time.
Mr. Chair, I did forward along comments that I did receive from someone from the area within Bridgewater with some concerns in terms of some water and some drainage offsite. So I did forward that over to you. So the board does have that comments just to make part of the record. So I hope the board read those comments and if they have any questions,
Is
the
it
applicant can address them.
is it necessary to read that in, Mr. O'Brien, or is that on
I would leave
record
it up
on
to
the
you,
website?
Mr. Chair. If you want me to read it in, that's fine. I did make it part of the public record online as well as forward it over along to the board members. So I leave it up to you in terms of what methodology you want to approach it as.
Oh, okay. Why don't we go ahead and read that in if it's of a reasonable length?
Sure.
If it's
Again,
overly
I'll
long, then it's
speak.
already
I'll
on the
speak
record.
quickly, and I can be quick on it. So
Thank you.
no problem. All right. So is on the screen. 8624 Bridgewater Planning Board, 259 Summer Street Lot 2 and 3. This letter cites Bridgewater zoning bylaws latest revision, August 9th, 2019. Please consider the following comments / questions for question 2. Lot 2 includes a part of an existing structure for an existing barn. Town engineer states runoff from lot 2 goes to lot 3. No plan for runoff is developed. Proposed property line is less than 5 feet from existing barn. The property line would be more detrimental to the existing non-conforming use. Barn would not be be an agricultural setback. The barn has been historically used for agricultural use, and under Bridgewater right to farm could result in odors and sounds that may not be desirable once new owners purchase / rent newly proposed lots from the developer. This would put driveway, daily, and outdoor use of the north side unit in very close proximity of barn. This is not good quality of life in this neighborhood. Section 510. Please consider the following comments, questions for lot 3. While a letter of review from town engineer is shared for lot 2, none is shared for lot 3, which is a greater number of abutters. Lot 3 receives runoff from lot 2, then sheds water onto 126 Worcester, 132 Worcester, 47 Leonard. It is the developer's responsibility to not increase the watershed onto these properties. The proposed plans raise the grade of the lot 3 from 94 feet to 99 feet and does not show any weight shed mitigation as existing. 132 Worcester Street receives runoff from 259 Summer Street. See image prior to owner mitigation work. New work should not exacerbate problem, but should make site improvements. The proposed work removes a berm and rock drain constructed for 47 Leonard Street. Proposed work eliminates mitigation for 132 Worcester Street under new for-profit ownership. Mitigation should be developed by new owner. It is not. Proposed building downspouts are routed from the highest point, discharging from higher elevations than existing, and will cause flooding at abutting properties. Civil plans should be revised for negative drainage for these properties. The area shown on the civil plan as quote unquote not cleared does not have any vegetation and is hard compact soil. The significant removal of the existing tree line for the proposed construction will only exacerbate the problem with watershed. There are no duplex buildings existing on Worcester Street or within the adjacent streets of Leonard. Any existing multifamily units keep with the historic character of the neighborhood as they are retrofitted with shared common driveways. The proposed duplex structures will detract from both the existing neighborhood's character and lower property value of adjacent properties, as well as the quality of life. Here's a picture. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Ryan.
Officially read into the record.
And I believe I did see a resident with their hand up earlier. If they'd still like to speak.
Thank you very much. So I noticed.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to cut you off. Does she have to do the name and address thing again, even though?
Yes.
Because it's okay. If you could just
Sure,
do the whole name and address thing again, thank you.
You bet. Chris Ventura, 32 Leonard Street.
Thank you. You may proceed.
You're welcome. Okay. So I noticed on the plans that there were maple trees to be planted. And what I would request is there are really beautiful, mature maple trees all along the Leonard Street property line. Yes, there are small ones there, but there are beautiful old ones as well. And I would request any of these older trees to be maintained if at all possible.
Okay, thank you. Any comment on that, Mr. Silva?
I know that there are some trees there. We've identified trees on the site plan. Believe me, these developers do not want to take trees out if they don't have to. The only time that they will have to is if it's extraordinarily large and it poses a danger to the house being developed, or the grade changes in the area where the existing tree is are going to be different, and then the trees don't survive. I mean, I lived it myself. I built a log home next to an existing oak tree and had to have a crane come in and take it out next year, because as much as I tried to build around it, just a slight change in grade changed it. I think that, I don't know, can you bring the site plan up there, Rebecca? You see that where we have the squiggly line there because there were too many trees to kind of say, the individual trees there, but there are trees in that area. So to the extent that they can stay, the developer is going to keep them because it's not changing happening along the stretch. However, we do have utility lines that are being connected. And there are a couple of grade changes, a little bit, not too much. So to the extent that he can, I think that it's a reasonable request to ask the developer to try to retain existing trees where possible along that area adjacent to Leonard Street.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank both of you. Any other public comment this time? I'm not seeing anybody.
I would just, when you want, I have an opportunity to address some of the comments that were in that letter. That's all.
Sure. I don't see anyone with their hand raised, so go right ahead, Mr. Silva.
Yeah, the comments that were in the letter, I mean, he was showing an existing condition. That existing condition is because there is kind of a lower area up and where the lot jogs and in the back there is kind of a lower area, and that's where water kind of goes from the whole neighborhood. It kind of goes in that direction. What we've tried to do is to try to soften it as much as possible. And by putting the roofs into the roof drain system, I think that also is going to minimize any real significant changes from what is there now to what is going to be there later. But as you can see, there's still going to be a substantial untouched area, that large sort of triangular area in the back of the lot. That's pretty significant to not be part of the grading plan. And as you can see on the left side, we kept the grading close to the houses, what made sense without making it look awkward or difficult to negotiate. But we have the limit of clear. You see, there's a good strip of land between there and the abutters on that side. So we were conscious of the fact that we're in an existing neighborhood, and we were doing our best not to, to be building things right up to the property lines.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Mr. Silva. And I believe Mr. Tanzi confirmed in his review that the proposed drainage should be adequate to address the other comment in the letter.
Yes, like what the applicant has stated, they've done pretty much all that they can do to mitigate the runoff. They've minimized clearing. They've kept as much of a buffer as is practical. So I mean, I don't see anything really more that could practically be done.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Tanzi. Okay, we will turn to planning board questions and comments. Mr. Geller,
No, I'm all set. Thank you.
Mr. Haley, anything from you?
No, thank you.
Anything from Ms. Pagone and Ms. Rojas?
No, not at this time.
Nothing from me, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, looks like we have no board questions and comments, no public comment. So I believe anybody like to move to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Geller, second by Ms. Pagone. Any further discussion? Mr. Haley,
Yes.
Mr. Geller,
Yes.
Ms. Pagone,
Yes.
Mrs. Rojas,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Okay, moving on. Mr. O'Brien, did you also have a proposed?
Sure,
s-
I just in the sake of time, it's the same
same
conditions
as last
as
one.
presented for lot 2. I would say that the additional change, I think the additional comment that we can make based on what we discussed is additional comment that the applicant look to retain trees as best as they can along Leonard Street. If the board's approachable to that comment, it's a very generic kind of comment, but I think the applicant showed some willingness to try, but it's not something necessarily we can. It's difficult to scale. I just assume that the applicant will clear a fair amount of trees on Leonard Street for driveway and utility purposes. Look to keep maybe 1 or 2. But I leave that up to the board if they want to add that as an additional comment based on this public hearing.
Well, Shane, we would only have to add that as a comment. That really can't be a condition, correct?
Well, you guys can throw whatever you want as a condition. It's really up to, I guess, myself as staff to enforce it.
I kind of have to agree with Mr. Geller on this. It's so kind of vague. Like you couldn't really determine intent on how hard did they try to save this tree or not. So I think leaving it, I'd probably stay with leaving it as a comment, but I'd leave it up to the board.
Yeah, I would. I'd leave it up to the board in terms of that. I just based on the back and forth, it was a consideration of additional comment. But other than that, if we don't want to include it as a comment, that's not. I mean, a condition. I leave that up to you guys.
Well, like I stated, I think I'm fine leaving it in as a comment. I don't think we can condition it because we don't know. You know, you start getting into under the canopies of the trees, you're gonna start destroying the trees and you can kill the roots.
Mhm.
So, we can leave it as a comment, but I wouldn't add it as a condition.
Okay.
Any other thoughts from anyone else on that or? Nope. Okay. Well, in that case, do we have a motion to approve or deny?
I'll make a motion to approve the special permit. Send it with set conditions with an added comment to the conditions of trying to save as many of the mature trees along Leonard Street.
Motion by Mr. Geller. Do we have a second? Second by Mr. Haley. Any further discussion? I'll take the roll. Ms. Pagone,
Yes.
Ms. Rojas,
Yes.
Mr. Haley,
Yes.
Mr. Geller,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Okay, I believe we'll be getting Mr. Driscoll back in at this point. Is that correct, Mr. Ryan?
Yeah, I think he's watching the meeting and understanding that he can now participate. So I'll pull up the legal ad.
Yeah, I'll get us rolling, and then he can join us when he's able to.
Sure.
So our next public hearing is 152 South Street, a special permit to convert a dentist office to a veterinary establishment or similar establishment, providing that animals are kept wholly indoors in a residential D district.
All
And,
right. I have the legal notice up.
Alrighty. So we have a public hearing notice on Wednesday, August 7th, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. The Bridgewater Planning Board will conduct a public hearing via Zoom on an application by Rosemary Botello for a special permit to convert a dentist office to a veterinary establishment or a similar establishment, provided that animals are kept wholly indoors in a residential D district located at 152 South Street, Bridgewater, Mass. The plans were prepared by Crocker Design Group and are on file with the town clerk and CED office and website. All interested persons are encouraged to attend Bridgewater Planning Board to be advertised on 7/24/24 and 7/31/24 in the Brockton Enterprise.
All right, and we do have Pat joining us again. So
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Still waiting for Pat.
He's in, so
he's
might
joined
proceed.
us.
There he is.
Michael, I'm here now. Do you want to continue with this hearing or do you want me to take it over? Whatever you want to do, I'm fine with.
Why don't you go ahead and take the reins, Pat?
All right, thank you. Go ahead, Attorney Pellegrini.
Good evening, everybody. I am representing the applicant, Rosemary Botello. She's applying to just move her practice from Bedford Street to here. It's a residential D zone here, so that is why we're before you tonight. It requires a permit for the use, the change from what it is currently to the veterinary practice. I guess I will ask for just maybe the site plan to be put up if we can, and then I'm gonna ask Manny Paiva, who drew the parking plan, to speak as well, seeing that was one comment that I think needed to be addressed in the review from, I think it was somebody at the town.
Yeah, Manny, you can share your screen if you want to.
Okay. So we
Okay.
could just jump to that then, I guess.
Can you see that?
Yes.
Just zoom in a little bit.
One thing to note here is that what you're seeing is just reutilizing exactly what is there now as far as pavement, except for what Manny is about to bring up.
Okay, and thank you, Ms. Pellegrini. My name is Manny Pyra. I reside at 20 Varsity Place in Bridgewater, and I assisted Rosemary and Rob on creating the site plan. So there is no expansion of pavement, no reduction of landscaping, less this small cut-in where my hand is at the very front of the facility in order to provide ADA access to the existing ramp. The ramp currently enters this building in this L shape. We initially had the spaces indicated over here, and there was a comment between 2 and 3 that it wasn't ADA accessible to traverse across the parking lot with proper grade to get to the base of the ramp. So we just cut this in. So again, the lot is 29,561 square feet. Pretty much 50% of it is wooded. From the space 14 back is wooded. There's, like I said, no expansion of edge of pavement, just simply cutting in this 18 by 16 foot flat area to keep our 2% cross slope, pave that area. Drainage will remain the same. There's a high spot, a high point on the sidewalk. Everything grades backward. All the curbing is Cape Cod berm. And from this sidewalk to space 14 drops down about 6 feet. So everything goes straight back in the back of the property. We were able to line the required spaces, which were 10. But counting the handicap, we were able to get 14. And again, that was utilizing the existing pavement, no expansion thereof. And that's my high level on the site plan. If there's any other questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them.
Manny, could you bring up the survey existing conditions plan if you have it?
Yes.
Thank you.
One thing I'll note is I have South Street at the bottom of the site, but when I look at the survey, it's the other way around. So I could flip it or leave it upside down. Up to you. So it's the same orientation as the plan I showed. But there is the site plan. You can see, as I mentioned, that Cape Cod berm that follows the edge, and you could see if I zoomed out from the extent of the edge of the parking to the property, you can see how far back the property goes. Let me zoom back in for you, Shane. How's that?
Perfect.
So, Mr. Pyva, new pavement would be that pavement in the front, which would be to accommodate the ADA space. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. So we would basically keep this angled ADA space from the edge of this wooden ramp out towards these 2 light poles. That's where the cut-in would be to maintain our 2% cross slope to get the handicap patron to the sidewalk and to get right up this ramp, or a patron that's handicapped from the public sidewalk. They already have access down this concrete. But you are correct, Patrick. It is this area of lawn right here.
Was that now that area in the front where it says LS, is that the lit sign? Is that where the lit sign is currently now?
Correct. It's 2 PVC poles that used to have the dental office sign in between them. That will be handled on a separate sign permit on that ID and where it would actually be. It's going to be conflicted with this cut-in. It'll have to be removed.
So that'll be removed and you'll apply for a sign permit. Is that correct?
Correct. More than likely it belongs on this side, where we could get a better setback and get it in here, not inhibit any trees.
Okay, just because, there's no other place that handicap spot could go. Is that just trying to keep the lawn in the front? Is there any other, so you don't have to pave that, is there any other existing spot that you could use?
Unfortunately not. I initially had it over here, but a comment I think from DPW was the distance to traverse across this. It would force the handicap patron to go out to the city sidewalk, come across the sidewalk, and then come back. Although that's how the dental office had it, that's how we initially started. But the only way around that, sir, is to put it at the base of that ramp, so it's the shortest distance from the door to door, vehicle to the store, to the door.
Is Mr. Solari on with us right now? Mr. Solari, you on?
Yep, no, and he's, Mr. Pav is correct, because the handicap access has to be accessed by the property itself. Going out onto the town sidewalk and back in is not it doesn't meet AAB or ADA. It really has to be on the property. And again, it also has to be the closest to the main door that it can be. So I think in this situation, that is your only choice.
Okay. Thank you. Are you all set, Mr. Piper? I got a few more questions, but I don't want to interrupt your presentation.
That was it. I wanted to keep it short and brief on the site plan.
How about, I just looking at the site plan that you had up, how do you guys plan to accommodate trash? I mean, right now there's a residential unit, and then this unit. Is there a dumpster location, or how is that being handled?
So there's one hatched area right here that is adjacent to the door to the basement that could house a dumpster corral right in this corner, or we could go to space 14 since we're over parked by 4 spaces, and then we could make this a space and flip it to 14.
Okay. So I looked at Attorney Pellegrini's application. It appears that we're applying under D11, not D12 in the zoning table. So all of the animals will be kept indoors. There'll be no outdoor storage. There'll be no outdoor cages or pens, so to speak. Is that correct?
That's correct, Mr. Driscoll.
Okay. What about hours? I mean, so some of these clinics with animals operate much different than a dentist office, and just where you have abutting residential structures, is this something that'll be open 24 hours proposed? Is it something that there'll be emergency hours, after hours? How is that handled in terms of hours of operation?
I did ask the client that, and she is here as well. I'm going to just quickly see. All right. The hours of operation remain the same. So it's Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Tuesday, 10 to 7, Thursday, 8 to 5. Naturally, there are going to be from time to time reasons for sort of an odd scenario that will happen outside of those hours. But generally speaking, those will be the regular hours.
Okay, so no hours proposed later than 7 o'clock at this point. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. What did I have done? Oh, the one other thing you mentioned in the application, and I guess another question for Mr. Solari if he's still on. So just when I was looking at the application and then looking at the zoning, Mr. Solari, this prior use fell under D2. Which would be medical, dental office, et cetera, which was a no. So this would actually be a more conforming use, correct?
Yes. Like I said, if you go back on the original decision on the dental office, it was a little strange how they did it. So this is a better method, what they're doing here. It conforms more.
But my question is that the variance was more for and I don't have a copy of the variance, but the variance was up by reading Attorney Pellegrini's application. it seemed like it was more mixed use. So now this is a new use. Is there an issue with that residential unit? If they want to keep it, do they have to go to ZBA, or are we fine approving it the way it is?
I would say, based on that it got a variance for the residential use, that the change isn't any more detrimental than the original variance.
Right.
And again, the way it was written when they originally did it, because I did ponder back and forth, trying to make sure I was making the right decision on it, writing a letter of the residential use. But after going through a lot of basically legal scenarios and looking at other projects, it pretty much, the variance was issued for that. And the only change of use is pretty much the commercial use on the first floor.
Okay. All right. And the last question I had written down was lighting. Is there any additions to lighting? Just where there's a residential house next door across the street, are there any additional lighting fixtures being proposed
None.
than what's currently there?
Nope.
Okay. All right. Those are the questions I had written down. So anybody else from the board, questions at this point?
Just one.
Mr. Chair, I have a couple questions. The first one you already answered for me. I was going to ask about dumpster location also. Just a couple of concerns is, the location. I understand why the handicap needs to be up front. The question is there enough room there for backing up and maneuvering a vehicle, getting it out with that existing curb right behind it? I know the existing driveway really isn't, the curb cut on the street's 12 feet, but the entrance itself into the property doesn't seem to be 12 feet. I mean, is that wide enough? Does that need to be made wider? Traffic flow going in and out of customers, I mean, that's just a little.
That's a good question. That's a good question. What's the distance between the back of that handicap spot and that curb?
It could be a resolution is if you flip flop the space in the hatch, and then hatch out space 2 as no parking, then the handicap van or vehicle would pull into the hatched area and then use this as a backing queue to get out. You could just flip flop these. The hatch does not need to be to the right of the space. It can be to the left.
Well, then,
Then you'd have to change. So then you would just make a change where you're adding that asphalt going to where the existing sidewalk is before you hit the bottom of the ramp.
Well, it's 14 feet right now from the back of this berm to the space, and this space is another approximately 10 feet. So you got your 24 behind it. So I was suggesting taking space 2, hatch it out as no parking. So that would be the back and hammer, and just flip flop 1 in the hatch.
And that's fine as long as it's, up to par and up to code. Like I said, my other concern is the width of the existing entrance. I mean, does that curb need to be made wider? I mean, your drawing shows that the street cut is wider than the entrance to the parking area.
Yeah, the driveway is approximately 12 feet. It widens up to 14 in the site a little more. And the curb cut from radii to radii on those curb cuts are 17. And again, we were utilizing all existing edge of pavement. The only way around that would be to cut this curb back to be more in line with the edge of this driveway.
Yep. Right
where my hand is. And I think there's a tree in this corner that would be affected by that.
Shane, does our zoning, I can't remember, does our zoning say we prohibit parking in the front yard setback for commercial? Or does it say, I gotta look it up, or does it say we can?
I would say if I think it states when appropriate. I would say in the case of this, you want an ADA accessible space to be in a logical area where the ramp is. I don't want to go down the road of reconfiguring the entirety of the property.
No, and I don't either. I guess what I'm trying to do is just avoid them having to do this if we could and not have asphalt in the front yard. That's
No,
all.
I understand what you're saying. I think our position was that 2 and 3 aren't appropriate for ADA accessible spaces, as well as space number 7 is a far enough distance away where it's not practical. So I think the removal of space 2, my concern with flipping 1 in the hatch marks is that you would need to still make that hatch mark area to be accessible to the existing sidewalk. So the updated plans would have to show a walkway from the hatch marks to the existing sidewalk. Pertaining the curb cut, I understand the issues in terms of the current width of the curb cut. Yeah, I'm looking at it presently, but it's I don't know. It's tough because you don't want to widen. You don't want to widen the curb cut at 152 South. But if based on a plan or a Google image of the street, there's let me see if I can bring it up. There's definitely to be some improvements at the site in terms of access, because you could, I guess, hypothetically widen it out over here because there's not, but then yeah, you risk removing the existing Cape Cod berm.
Well, that Cape Cod berm's coming out for the parking space anyway, right?
Well, the one on the left side, the rest is all existing. Everything else on the right side would be maintained as existing, but
Yeah, but I
everything-
guarantee that gets run over now by vehicles.
No, I get you.
I mean, the possibilities of, even getting a fire truck in back there if something happens, if it needs to get back there, that's all. I just think it's really narrow. And there's no way that you even, if you had 2 customers, one trying to come off of, South Street to get into the parking lot, I mean, that's all. Just putting my concern out there.
Mr. Geller, do you have anything else, sir?
No, that's it.
Is there anybody else from the board that has any questions or comments at this point?
I just have one question related to the use. I never ran a vet's office. Is there any expectation that a significant quality of like biological waste may be generated by the use? And if so, how do they plan to dispose of that on site?
That's a fair question. I definitely need the client to chime in on that one.
Can you pull up the architectural plans? Manny, I think I saw them on your screen. If you could share those.
So this is the existing ramp coming into the entry, ADA ramp, and this is the stairway. So this comes into the reception waiting area, and then public restroom, ADA accessible, and the exam rooms. And all the modifications on this proposed floor plan are non-structural. They're all non-bearing walls being removed or added, so no structural change.
Right. Any other at this point? If there are no, in here, I'm sorry. So if there are no staff comments, this is a public hearing, so at this time I'll open up to the public. If you have
One more thing, my client jumped on. Patrick, do you want to hear from her about the biological waste question?
Sure, that's fine.
So for biological waste, we would be dealing with a limited amount of pet waste. So for patients that are having surgery and get walked after surgery, that would be cleaned up as needed. And we do have medical waste disposal that we pay for to come and take away the hazardous waste.
Okay, excellent. So it's not like a situation where tissues would be getting put in the dumpster or something like that.
Not to a significant degree now.
Okay, thank you very much, ma'am.
Sure, thank you.
All right, at this time, I'll open it to the public. If there's anybody from the public that would like to speak, you can raise your virtual hand and Mr. O'Brien will find you. Just please state your name and your address for the record before asking a question or making a comment.
Oh, goodness.
I have a question.
Yeah, we have Paul Malone with his hand raised.
Hi, I'm Paul Malone from 21 Maple Avenue. I'm not adverse to what's going on here. I think it's a good fit for the neighborhood. I do have a couple questions. I do agree with the parking situation and the hash marks. And is there a requirement for 8 feet for the hash next to the handicap parking? Could that be made a little bit smaller to keep a little bit more of the green property in the front? Or is that a requirement, the 8 foot?
With Larry?
Yeah, it's under AAB, which is what we follow for handicap regulations. It's 8 feet. It's 8 feet for the spot and 6 feet for the hash.
I think on the plans, it showed 8 feet for the hash.
Well, the hash can be brought down to 6.
I would appreciate that. That would be considered. And I do agree with the parking space number 2, because the access of getting out after looking at the photo of the Google map, I think more of a straight in to open that up, because the trucks that are going to pick up the waste anyway are going to back over that lawn anyway. And I do have another point. Since the sign is going to be moved, there's probably existing a certain sign requirement for size. So if that's going to be moved, is there a new application that has to be made for a new sign and a new size for location? Because I'm pretty sure that when signs are approved, they're in a fixed spot. You can't move them.
All right. So under the zoning, when the original place was the dental place was approved, they got approved for a certain size sign.
That's correct.
So the applicant can go no larger than the existing sign. That's the max. Because it's in a residential zone and we have certain restrictions on business signs in residential zone. But because this got a variance or a special permit years ago, it has to follow what was pre-existing when it was issued.
Correct. But how about if they want to relocate it, do they need to reapply for the relocation spot because they're now going to be closer to the adjacent property?
They have to apply for a sign permit, and when they do apply for the sign permit, I will look at the requirements. And what I can also do is pull up the original decision letter on the original sign to make sure that they're following what was there originally and nothing gets changed.
Okay. And the final thing is, as far as the trash, that hash section out there in the back for trash potential behind the building, I'm not in disagreement with either there or down in the back, except that maybe they kind of put some fencing up for, kind of a little bit of privacy.
I would probably just want to know from Rosemary what she utilizes now for trash.
We currently rent a space that has a dumpster.
Okay.
We could either get a dumpster or do town trash. I think either would be manageable, whatever is acceptable.
Yeah, I think we're looking for, in this case, it'd be a dumpster, but also screened in.
Yes.
Mr. Maloney, do you have any other questions, sir?
No, I'm not against it at all. It's just some of those tweaking that could be done, and I'm all for it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We have a Larry Silva with his hand raised.
Mr. Silva, go ahead.
State your name and address, sir.
Hi, Larry Silva, engineering. So the presentation that was being made, could you bring up that plan that showed his parking spaces and that handicap space in the front? I just had a suggestion that you might be able to resolve it.
Mr. Paiva, are you still with us?
Yes, I am.
Could you bring up that diagram that you had there?
It takes time. Rebecca knows that.
I'm too impatient. Okay, so you see where you have in the front, you have your existing sidewalk coming in straight to the building. You have this gap in between there and where the parking is starting. I would suggest to you that you consider sliding both the striped area and the parking space up to the sidewalk. Then the sidewalk become the way of negotiating it, and then that leaves you open to be able to switch the striped area and the actual space if that is more advantageous. But you're going to pick up with that you have a problem with the vehicles getting in and backing out. So that was just a suggestion, that's all. Take it or leave it.
But then you have, just to clarify, then you have the handicap spot against the sidewalk, so you have no green space in front, it's all just pavement?
You got that's because that's your access from the handicap space. You're going to use that sidewalk, come around the corner, and go up into the building. You're not talking about a huge distance there. It's what is that, 4 feet? Maybe that's like 4 feet wide. So I'm just saying, push the space in so that the front nose of the space is up to the existing sidewalk. That's all. Just a thought.
Thank you,
Double
sir, for your
distance
comment.
here. Right, Larry, push this up to this, move the ADA sign to the other side of the sidewalk.
Yep.
And then you get another 4 feet of maneuverability behind the space.
So you're not talking about the sidewalk, the street sidewalk. You're talking about the sidewalk that could be referred to as the walkway, right?
Yep. Just take what you got there and slide it to the left. Take
Slide
the
it left
parking
about
space and
5
stripe
feet.
and slide it.
And then you basically get, Larry, 5 more feet of maneuvering behind the spot.
That's correct. That's correct.
Mr. Piper, how much?
Well, wait a minute. I mean, it is a good way of doing it, but the problem is now that you've made that a much deeper parking space.
Right.
You're not changing the curb cut. You're going in deep. You know, unless you're gonna redo the entrance, which I'm gonna basically ask you to do anyways, because I think you're gonna run over that Cape Cod berm. But you'd have to adjust your entrance on the other side also.
And at least you get, the way it's designed now, at least you get some green space. I mean, even though I don't like the parking in the front, and even though I was trying to get you to try to just use an existing space, I guess that's not an option. You know, we might be able to do some plantings, you know, privet hedge or something along that parking space to give the residential neighbors across the street, you know, so they're not looking at pavement in the front yard of a house, you know? Oh. All right, any other public comment? Mr. Silver, are you all set, sir? Okay.
I don't see any virtual hands raised, nor do I see any buddy in the chat.
Okay, so I guess just coming back to it, you know, my main concerns are really just if we could do some plantings or something in front of that handicap spot in the front and make sure that handicap spot works, just to kind of screen it and keep that green space in front so it doesn't look like we have cars parking on the front lawn out there. You know, some sort of a hedge, evergreen hedge, or some plantings in front, ornamental grass or something, just to kind of shield that spot in the front. I agree, trash is a concern. Just a spot needs to be identified where the trash is going to go and how it's going to be handled. And I think our zoning, we have, if it is going to be a dumpster, it needs to be screened. We went over the hours, the lighting, and then just the parking needs to be adjusted. Mr. Geller, you had some parking comments you wanted to circle back to? Or?
Yeah, I'd like to actually see him take that piece of Cape Cod burn out and make it more of a straight shot in and out from South Street instead of being so narrow. And I would agree with them, crossing out space 2 for backing up for the handicap.
I noticed from the images, Mr. Paiva and Attorney Pellegrini, that it looks like nothing is striped now. So is that parking lot going to have any work done to it? Patchwork, seal coating, striping, that's all proposed? Or is that just what's proposed to that parking lot?
For obvious financial reasons, we were just going to stripe it.
Okay.
And based on walking that lot, there's no problems with potholes, or any cracks or broken asphalt. It's just been there for years with no line. So we were basically going to go in and restripe using the edge of pavement. We were only going to cut in that ADA space. Now it sounds like we'll make a modification to that right side of the curb line. But that's right. It was nothing to do with the pavement at all, other than the lines.
Okay. So, Mr. Tansey, do you have any comments, engineering comments, based on what you've heard this evening, or anything you'd like to add?
Well, yes, the entrance, I think it should be widened. It's two-way traffic. We typically prefer a 24-foot wide opening. And seeing that we're gonna lose that first parallel parking space, I think we could leave the ADA parking configuration as it is, and the vehicle backing out can utilize that parallel parking space that we're going to eliminate, and it with a 24-foot wide opening, it frees up the access to the site for everybody. It facilitates it. I think it makes it a lot more safe and more accessible to emergency vehicles. In other words, if you look at the plan, if you hold the curb,
Do we have the plan up right now? Oh,
yeah. So you see where the opening at the gutter line is 17 feet, and there's that curb return that's to the right. This is the gutter line on South Street, the entrance. I think by holding the one on the right and expanding the one on the left so that width is 24 feet. It doesn't, I think that would go a long way to make that ADA parking space a whole lot more accessible. And I think the entire traffic flow into and out of the site would be greatly improved. Maybe spot 3, maybe that could be slid back into that green space, or butt space number 4 or something, so that you don't necessarily have to lose space 3. But I think the basic concept that you've got sketched on there now would go a long way to making the site a whole lot safer, and ease of access in and out of a parking space is always good for business as well. So that's my comment. Well, one other thing, I don't believe on the ADA parking space, I think at least one van accessible parking space is required. So I don't think we'll be able to reduce that from 8 to 6, the landing, the striped landing from the ADA. But if I recall the code correctly, I believe we're stuck with an 8-foot wide parking space, but the applicant should double check on that just to confirm.
Aren't the town ordinances 9 by 18 for a parking space?
Yes, but ADA is different.
Okay.
ADA does not go by zoning, and all ADA parking and ramps and whatnot are exempt from zoning as well.
Right. Okay. Any other staff comments at this point?
Yeah, I kind of have one. I do understand some concerns about traffic flow, and that is something that's in the scope of the special permitting process. I do believe that we're getting a little excessive in terms of a redesign of an existing property when we're just talking about a change in use. I think that there becomes a cost burden of widening an existing street curb cut, removal of asphalt at the burden of the applicant. I'm fine with the dumpster information, the removal of space 2, as well as probably a little bit of widening when it comes to some of the Cape Cod berm that's existing to maintain that existing 17-foot curb cut. But I think if we go into the territory of widening that 17-foot curb cut, it puts this project in the special permit at a point where we're asking beyond what's, I think, reasonable. So that's just my comments on that. I'll let the board discuss.
Yeah, and I just want to make sure the ADA spot works, right? So I think it'd be nice to have that widened, but if that spot 2 is removed, Mr. Piva, you're pretty sure that ADA, when you pull in off the street to that new ADA space, there's no issues with maneuvering to get into that or to get out of that. Are you confident of that?
Yes, I mean, flipping them. So we're gonna put the stall on this side and the hatch on the other, and then hatch this out for backing. Yes.
I mean, I wasn't going to the extent of asking them to widen it to 24. I was just really asking to widen it to the existing curb cut opening.
17.
The 17, right? Because Mr. O'Brien's correct. I mean, you got to start cutting in and moving existing granite, street. That's not what they're really here for. But I think to make anything a little safer, to pull that back, the 3-4 feet is not really a huge burden to pave that.
So you're saying here, Steve, from the end of this radii.
Yeah, just go straight back.
Yeah, that's about a
Get rid
2
of that.
foot cut, and then you hatch this out, and it gives you that much more maneuverability. Flip-flop.
Absolutely, I think it makes it a safer entrance for everybody. A little bit more room for maneuvers. When your plow trucks are going to come into the winter, they're not going to tear that up. It's just a little bit safer.
Right down there.
Okay.
With the curb cut, get rid of that section.
All right. Any other comments?
Yeah, I would just touch on the you talked about screening for the ADA spot. I just have some concern that it could reduce the visibility for the vehicles backing out of that spot in regards to vehicles coming from the opposite direction trying to enter the lot. So I just say, with the screening, we'd have to be careful with what's proposed. It's not high enough to block line of sight to vehicles entering that lot because it is kind of a tricky entrance.
Good comment. Yeah. All right. Other comments? Mr. O'Brien, what are your thoughts at this point? And board members, is this something we can condition this plan, or do you want to see the dumpster location, the corral for the dumpster, make sure that works, and the modified ADA spot and the modified opening, or?
Well, I'm okay with the conditions because I'm gonna go see the plan. I would leave it up to the board members in terms of the trust in me, I guess. I like Mr. Geller's idea in terms of the 17-foot area. I think that's sensible, maintaining the existing curb cuts as well as the switching over the handicap spaces, as well as placement on the plan for a screened dumpster location in the hash mark spot. So, but I would leave that up to the board in terms of your guys' comfort level. I'm comfortable with it because I get to review it. But I leave it up to the board if they want another meeting, or if conditional approval is appropriate for the special permit.
Okay, thank you, Mr. O'Brien. You know, we didn't meet a couple of weeks ago, so I don't want to drag it on forever. So, is there any other public comment at this point? If not, are there any other board comments or staff comments at this point? All right, so we have a special permit hearing that's open. Do we want to keep the public hearing open, or do we want to close the public hearing?
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll second.
All right, so we have a motion by Mr. Geller to close the public hearing, second by Mr. McDonald to close the public hearing. Is there any discussion? Okay, I'll call the roll. Mr. Geller?
Yes.
Ms. Rojas?
Yes.
Mr. Haley?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Okay. So now, you know, our discussion, deliberations on this. So a lot of good points were brought up about trash, parking configurations, widening the existing opening to match the existing granite opening. Lighting isn't going to change. Hours of operation, you know, I think that's important that we identify that to some degree. It is a residential neighborhood. It does have a school on one side, a single family residential home to the left, and one across the street. So I think hours of operation need to be in the ordinance and in the decision. So how do we want to tackle these, and does somebody want to start to propose some conditions?
Well, Mr. Chair, sorry. Mr. Chair, I did provide a memorandum that did have some draft decision conditions as part of it.
I have that.
Yep, so I'm happy to add what was discussed there today, which includes the widening of the existing opening to match the 17-foot curb cut, ADA accessibility with those spaces switched off as well as the elimination of parking space 2. To allow for safe backing in and turning in. Hours of operations, it'd be conditioned on what Attorney Pellegrini stated, as to match the current hours of operation of the establishment, as well as a dumpster that would be screened in.
Okay. The only other comment I have, is there any way, I mean, I agree. So Mr. McDonald made a good point, but is there any way to do some like low, you know, ornamental grasses or something just in the front? Just, it is a residential area, so we don't have it looking like there's a parking space in the front yard. Is the applicant willing to do that? Is something you think we should condition, Shane, or do you think we just?
I wouldn't ask for like a landscape plan. I just say I want it to look better than what it is now. I feel like there's some. I feel like it's one of those things where you just say trust the applicant in terms of making it look good. But I wouldn't be against with the idea of some low ornamental areas to screen along the parking area. I don't see it being an issue, whether it be mums or whatever.
That wouldn't take away from visibility. Okay.
Yeah, just some low whatever plantings.
All right. So I think we got a pretty good handle on those. Anything else anybody from the board would like to add as potential conditions?
I'd just like to comment on the hours of operation. Given the nature of the business as a medical facility, I would hope we could include some kind of carve out for legitimate emergency exceptions to the hours of operation. I don't know how you would write that in.
I mean, could you do by appointment, so they're not regular hours? Would be, hey, I have a sick cat or I have a sick dog. I'm going to bring it down to meet with you. You basically meeting with one veterinarian and one individual. It's more of a one-on-one thing.
That would be my expectation, or if they had to do emergency surgery or some kind. I didn't see an OR in there, so just some carve out for legitimate emergency use outside of posted hours. I think would be an improvement.
I would say that from our perspective, hours of operations are typically respected until they're not, as we'll talk about later.
Right. I think it's posted hours of operation and one the general public can go in, right? I think that, yeah. I agree with you, Mr. McDonald. I don't, if Mr. It's on the record, so if Mr. O'Brien wants to try to work something like that into the decision, we can do that as well. So.
Sounds good.
All right, so do we have any other conditions that we'd like to discuss? Mr. O'Brien, you think you got all those? Mr. O'Brien, you good?
Yep, I'm good. Sorry, just fixing my microphone.
In our motion, we don't have to go through it all again?
No, it's the ones that are drafted on the decision, as well as the, like I stated earlier, with the widening of the existing opening, ADA accessibility, hours of operation with consideration of appointment only, dumpsters being screened, as well as some small plantings along the new ADA parking areas, as well as the removal of parking space 2, and to allow for safe access for the ADA accessible space.
Okay. Do we have a motion on the project with the draft decision and the conditions as discussed?
I'll make a motion to approve the special permit for this with the drafted conditions along with all the other conditions stated in this meeting.
I'll second.
So by Mr. Geller, second by Mr. McDonald. And just for discussion before we vote, Shane, at one point you told me we might have to put on a waiver. Is that still the case or no?
Oh my goodness, yes, we do. So the applicant did, so after this, the applicant did request a waiver from the engineering review fee for this project. So we would have to vote to accept that waiver as well.
And that's basically because there's no change to the site drainage, no additional parking being added other than the ADA. No,
that was the intent. Yeah.
Right. So I think we can probably handle that in this motion if we modify the motion. Is that correct?
If you would like to make it part of the motion, that's acceptable to me.
So, Mr. Geller, you made a motion. Would you like to amend that motion to?
I'll amend that motion to add acceptance of the waiver to.
It'd be the waiver of the engineering
waiver
fee
of the
as required.
As required. Exactly.
Okay, Mr. McDonald, you willing to, do you second that, Mr. McDonald?
Yes, sir.
All right, so we have a motion to approve with the conditions discussed in Mr. O'Brien's letter, as well as granting a waiver for the technical review because there's really no site work being done. So we have a motion and a second. I'll take the roll. Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mr. Haley?
Yes.
Ms. Rojas?
Yes.
Mr. Geller?
Yes.
I'm a yes. Thank you very much.
Have a good night, everybody. Thank you.
You.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. Just why I opened this up, Mr. O'Brien, I went into the portal and I got to notice the legal ad for 152, but there was no legal ad for 350. Do you have access to that?
Yeah, I can pull it up. I'll share my screen and pull it up for now.
In the meantime, I'll read. So item 4 on the agenda this evening under public hearings new. We have 350 Cross Street. This is map 118, lots 23, 24, 25, and 89. This is a definitive subdivision. approval of a 6-lot subdivision. This is 4 proposed homes with a previously approved preliminary subdivision. The applicant is Robert Vaza, and this is located within an AB district. This was continued from August 7th, 2024. It was not open, so I'm going to read the public hearing notice, which is also on the screen. Legal notice, Bridgewater Planning Board, public hearing notice on Wednesday, August 7th, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. The planning board will conduct the public hearing via Zoom on an application subject to Bridgewater subdivision rules and regulations for an approval of a 6-lot subdivision with requested waivers that received approval with preliminary subdivision plan, The subdivision proposed by Robert Vaza is located at 350 and 0 Cross Street, Bridgewater, Mass. Assessors map 118, lots 23, 24, 25, and 89. This is on 41.29 acres. The application and plans were prepared by Silva Engineering and are on file in the office of the town clerk and the CED office and website. All interested persons are encouraged to attend. This was posted by the Bridgewater Planning Board and the Brockton Enterprise on 7/24 and 7/31/2024. So, Mr. O'Brien, we have received the abutters green cards. Is that correct?
That is correct. We've received them from Silva Engineering.
And all the fees have been paid?
Yep, we've received the fees for the advertising and the application. So yeah, they're good to go.
And one thing I did not see just before we open is just, if we have it, I'll pull it up, but I didn't see any engineering review from Mr. Tanzi on the definitive. Is that correct, Mr. Tanzi?
No, Mr. Tanzi, I forwarded along Mr. Tanzi's comments to the board prior to the last meeting. So it may have been some time ago.
Okay, I know they went in that portal again. I'll find it.
Let me see if I can find it, but I do believe I forwarded it along to the board once I received it. So I received it around.
That's all right. Why they're giving the presentation? I'll find it. I just didn't know if we received that or not. I went through everything else. So
yeah, we received comments, and it was incorporated in my memo letter from 8/5.
Okay, I have that. All right, so I'll open it up to the applicant at this point for their presentation.
Good evening, Larry Silva from Silva Engineering Associates. And I failed to mention before, but Rebecca Baptista is here with me this evening. So I forgot to do that when we did the other one. So this is for the address is really at 350 Cross Street and the land adjacent to it. And this is for a subdivision entitled Chestnut Mare Path. Now, this is one that we didn't go straight to a definitive. We came to the board with a preliminary subdivision plan first, and that's because it was a little bit unique, and we wanted to get consensus from the board prior to moving forward with the definitive. And what was unique about it was the fact that 350, which is shown on lot 23A on this plan, that's where the existing house is. And although, one could argue that you could do a Form A lot and just take that house lot out of the picture and just be looking at the subdivision, the problem comes with the access to that lot because of the riverfront issues with Snowsbrook. And our interface with the DEP, as DEP was looking for us to find an alternative way than to try to create a new driveway for that lot within the riverfront area. So that's why we came before you. The board was receptive to the idea that it's really still a 4-lot subdivision, a 4-house subdivision, and that the additional driveway that comes from the existing house would sort of marry into the subdivision close to where Cross Street is. So if you can see right there, we really have Chestnut Mare Path, the 4-lot subdivision. But as you get close to Cross Street, you see how we're proposing that the driveway from the existing house be routed in a way that it comes in almost into Cross Street because it's got kind of a funky layout, but it's actually into Chestnut Mare Path. When we presented that to the board indicated that they were okay with it, but they were looking for what was going to be in the public interest to sort of hold this to a 4-lot subdivision criteria. And what they were looking for was for some limitation on the remaining land that is owned by the proponent. And as such, it was suggested that we either put it in a conservation restriction or otherwise restrict it so that it won't be developed in the future. So as you can see, the way that the subdivision is laid out, we have existing lot 23A reconfigured somewhat. And then we have the 4 lots, which are served by Chestnut Mare Path. And then you see parcel A to the rear of the subdivision, which has 25 acres of land, which goes around the back of the property. And that would be held so that it does not involve any future development. And so what I believe is that what we've submitted here is consistent with what the approval was that was given to us from this board. And as such, we presented it this way. We submitted the details on it, and we did receive a technical review from the town engineer. That we received that. We are currently working on the items that he has asked address. They're all very manageable, and we are pretty close to being able to submit that back to the town and to the town engineer for him to indicate to your board whether or not we've complied with the issues or not. But tonight, we were also just leaving it open for the board to provide us with any other comment that they feel as though that we have to address aside from the town engineer's comments. And with that, if we get to past that point of tonight's hearing, what we expect would be is you would have a plan that includes both any comments from tonight, responses to the town engineer's comments, and would have it back in front of you, looking for possible approval at your next hearing. So just as a summary, in case you forgot about the details about the project, as you can see, it's a hammerhead coming in. We have a drainage basin that's off the, we're collecting along the sides the way that the 1 to 4 lot subdivisions require. And then we're also then conveying water in a southeasterly direction towards adjacent wetlands, which is lots 2 and 3. There is one that shows sort of a suggested development plan. It shows grading for individual lots. So that's how we see that the individual house sites would be developed. Obviously, the actual design of the house depends on when a buyer comes along. Could be a little bit different, but that's pretty much what you'd be looking for as to what works on each of these lots. And I don't think it's anything unusual compared to what you've seen on other similar kind of small subdivisions that are under the revised bylaws from a few years ago. So what I would ask though is if any of the board members have any questions regarding what we're proposing, and so we can make sure that anything that needs to be addressed can be incorporated in the same updated plan set.
So thanks, Mr. Silva. Mr. O'Brien, I apologize. You did send that technical review and I printed it off and it was just in with another packet. So I have it right here. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
So I know it's a detailed engineering report dated August 1st, and I haven't gone through the whole thing. But I do see a number of items in here that need to be addressed. So I guess, and Mr. Silva, so there's more than adequate frontage for that existing lot 23A on
Yes.
Cross Street. We went over that before, right?
Yeah, in other words, one might say, well, geez, you have an A&R lot that you could just cut out and take 350 right out of the picture. But because the driveway would not be within that frontage, we felt that it would be better to not do that separately and then come in with the subdivision, that it would be better just to show it in its entirety here, so that the board sees the bigger picture as to how it all comes together.
Now and I think I asked this before, but that cross street layout is so screwed up. It comes so far in.
Yeah.
And so a number of feet of that private road, so to speak, is going to be owned by the town because it's going to be in the layout. Is there any way to come off that road in the public layout so it's almost not coming off the private road, so to speak? And then there wouldn't even be a need for a waiver, or is that not possible? That looks like it's coming out it looks like your driveway is not coming off the road, but it's coming off the layout. Is that correct?
It's coming off, you're talking about the driveway to the house? The driveway to the house is coming off just inside of where the new roadway ties into Cross Street layout. You can see the curve radius.
But what I'm saying though is that first, where is, I don't see that, it's 200 feet. What's that, about 50, that layout from the edge of pavement to where the private road would start is what, 75 feet, 100 feet? Your driveway is coming off the town layout. It's not coming off the private road, correct?
Yes. But it crosses into the Chestnut Mere Path layout.
Oh, it crosses through the layout. Okay, all right, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
All right. So, then there isn't, so that lot could have been Form A, right? That's
Oh, yeah, if Form A, we'd be showing, in Form A it, we wouldn't be having, we'd have the driveway off of the actual Form A. It would have frontage and it would have viable access, but from a permitting point of view, it becomes very problematic to get DEP to go along with anything in the riverfront area. And that yellow line, that's the inner riparian, Rebecca?
Yes, and we did try moving the driveway on.
Oh, we tried.
We tried. DEP shut it down.
Yeah, we got scars to show you. We tried. And they basically wanted to push back to us to try to see any other viable option for us to do it. And that's how we ended up going in the direction we did. And we held the because we had an order of conditions for a driveway from Bridgewater, but it got appealed by the DEP. And they said, no, we don't like it to go that way. And that's how it got tied up. So everybody, I believe everyone, based on the preliminary that we went with you folks, with the DEP and our conversations with her, everybody's on board that this is an acceptable way. And in addition to that, I also met extensively with the town officials, the fire department, made sure everyone is on board with the configuration as we here. And we met with, I believe it's, is it Deputy Chief? It's Craig Windsor, I believe it is, right?
That's East Bridgewater.
Yeah, and we met with him. We went over it with him, and he was fine with it as it's configured here.
So what, the island at the entrance, is that because there's a telephone pole there?
Yeah, we just want to protect it. There's a guy wire off the back of it because you think about it, Cross Street is like a crossbow, a reverse crossbow here because the poles are on the outside of the Cross Street roadway. They need to have tension, so there is a guy wire that comes back a little bit. So that island is just taking care of mostly the guy wire.
Well, my only other question was just going through the plans. There doesn't appear to be a street tree planting schedule.
That's a comment I'm going to address.
That was one of the comments that was on Greg's list that was being addressed as part of it. Part of our response to comments.
Okay, that's all I have until we get the revised plans. Thank you. Any other board members?
This is a heavily wooded area, I will tell you though. This is a heavily wooded area, so when you say street trees, you are in a significant area. I don't know how much the street trees really are as needed as in some other areas.
Well, I think Mr. O'Brien and the board, I think if you have adequate trees at the street, I don't think we want you to cut them down to plant one, but I think those should just be shown remaining.
Yeah,
Correct?
that'll be part of our response to you as to whether or not we are just going full compliance or if we're trying to ask you for limited compliance for it based on what we can show you is there. And Greg will be weighing in on it.
Yeah, I mean, personally, if you have wooded front yards, I don't want you to cut the front yard to plant the street tree, but I think if there's room for a street tree and there's not an existing tree, then you plant it according to our rules, so that's all.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So we're going through, we've got a response letter drafted and we're going through each one of the items and just should have it out within the week, I would think, to start the review with Greg so he can advise you that we have or haven't met the comments.
Okay, other board comments at this point?
Yeah, Mr. Silva, can you just go into a bit of detail on how parcel A would be protected?
I'm sorry, and how what?
Parcel A will be kept protected. I believe you said it was
Oh, yeah.
gonna be
So
held.
parcel A is going to be deeded to the homeowners association for lots 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 23A. But it basically, they all would have the rights to use it for passive, passive usage, but there would be deed restricted that it cannot be developed for any further homes or anything.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much.
Other board comments? No? All right, so this is a public hearing. At this point, I'll open it up to the public for any comments, questions. Just please state your name and address for the record. You can raise your hands, your virtual hands, or send Shane a chat to be recognized. Again, just state your name and address before you comment.
Yes, my name's Daniel Kenny. I live at 95 Lori Lane.
Go ahead, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
I live at 95 Lori Lane. I received a couple of registered letters indicating they were developing the property. I'm wondering how does this affect the parcels that I own that abut this property by the power lines?
Shane, can you give us an idea where Lori Lane is in relation to this? We're quite a ways away, huh?
There's an electric corridor that is dividing this property and Lori Lane.
So could you bring the plan back up with a big piece of open space? So most of that looks like it's going to remain open space abutting Lori Lane. Is that correct?
That's
Ms. Baptiste?
Actually, there's a property in between. I'm gonna pull up a mass mapper so you can see it. Give me one moment, unless Shane has something quicker.
If you're moving quickly, I bet.
Yeah.
Is notification is 300 feet, right? Is that?
That is correct, but with the amount of lots as part of this notification, you got a substantial amount of distance in between.
Yeah, I'm almost done. Is it there? Can you see it?
No, we can't see it.
We can see
Okay.
the
Okay,
overall
hang on.
lot layout.
It popped up on my screen. It did not pop up on yours. Open. Because it keeps doing that. Why does it keep doing that? Now I'm starting to sound like Larry. Why is it doing that? You know what?
I would
Yeah.
say that, yeah, because they're adjacent to lot. I got it.
Yeah.
Hold on. I'm moving.
It's
I own the two parcels under the power lines
Yeah,
as well as the 95 Lori Lane parcel.
Sure, you're over here, and then this property is
And we started, there you go.
there
Yep.
you go. Yep, there you go. You got it.
a, yeah,
That's
Mr.
why-
Mr. Vaza owns 89 and you own 118, 122. So,
To it, and that's why you were notified.
so I guess
I'm
the
so-
I get, if you want to pull up your screen, Rebecca, I think we can.
And sir, we're not, there's quite a bit of response needed from the applicant to the engineering review that was provided tonight. So these full sets of plans are available in the office at the town hall if you'd like to go in and look at them.
Yeah, you're in the top right-hand corner of parcel A.
Yeah.
So I think the applicant presented that parcel A area is not going to be developed.
Yeah, it's
So
another 600 feet of undeveloped land.
That's about 600 feet, Ms. Baptiste.
Yes.
So sir, does that answer your question where it is in relation to you? Or, I mean, again, the plans are on file at the Academy building in the planning department if you'd like to see them. There's not gonna be any approval or discussion of an approval tonight. It's just, we're just getting the ball rolling with this.
Okay, no, I appreciate that. Like I said, I received several letters over the last, I believe, year. Several of the meetings I wasn't able to attend. And I was just trying to get a gist of how this would affect the two other parcels that I own, other than the one that my house sits on.
Yeah, there's a vast, you can see the gray area on the plan. There's a vast wetland between you and lot 3 that could probably never be developed anyway because of the wetlands, so.
True, yeah, the wetlands, and also the National Grid has an easement through my property.
Okay, but again, I encourage you to go stop in and see Mr. O'Brien. He has the plans in the office. And you can see a full set that might help you understand it a little better.
Absolutely, I appreciate it. Thank you.
yeah, as well as the plans are available online too. So if you're happy, if you want to reach out to me, I can show you where it is in proximity to it as well.
Okay, is there any other, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Are there any other public comments at this point? Shane?
Don't see any public, I'm sorry, don't see any virtual hands raised, nor do I see anybody in the chat.
All right, so our next meeting is September 4th. Is that correct, Mr. O'Brien?
Correct. The next two meetings are September 4th and September 18th.
So to the applicant, do you prefer either of those dates?
We would, Rebecca, I would say that September 4th would be the one we'd be looking to have it back on. We're just going to, I guess it depends on how long it's gonna take
For the review?
the town engineer to respond to our response. I guess that would be it. I think we should put it on for the 4th. If for some reason there's an issue, then there was always the option to move it, but I would like to do it on the 4th. This has been a long process for Mr. Vaza, and he'd really like to get this resolved.
Okay. We'll go to the 4th. If we're not ready with the reviews and you don't have the plans, then we'll continue it to the 18th. So if there's no more discussion from the board or from staff, do we have a motion?
I'm sorry, I just have one comment, and I noticed in the memo, in terms of laying out waivers, because I think the discussion as part of the preliminary subdivision was that this subdivision be treated as essentially a 4-lot subdivision, whereas it's more than 4 lots in the sense of how it's broken down. Is that we're gonna have to look at, the applicant provide us a waiver request based on what they're producing and how it's waived to match the requirements of a 4-lot subdivision. I think that's just something that we're gonna have to have as a vote after approval or as part of the approval. But just to kind of mix and match waiver requests so we're consistent.
All right, so you want Mr. Silva's office to submit a waiver request outlining the waiver and the benefits, correct?
Correct. Just to the waivers from our subdivision regulations pertaining to whatever would be for something more than 5 lots, and we're trying to match it with the 4 lot regulations. So I think we all understand it is just the dirty part of having it meet the subdivision regulations and the verbiage. So that's all I ask.
And I think the fact that, I mean, basically 23A, and that's what I was trying to get to in my head, is could be Form A, right? And there's two justifications for the waiver, I guess. One is to maintain proper distance from the wetland, right? And then 2 is that parcel A will become part of the HOA and will be restricted for passive recreation, right? So.
No, I don't disagree with the justification.
You want Mr. Silva to put that in writing, that request?
No,
correct?
I don't disagree with the justification. It's just the matter of the waiver requests of what we're waiving.
Okay.
It's just so in future context, there's a reason why we waive such because of X, Y, and Z, and these are why, and these are the things that we waived.
Understood.
Shane, I know you and I go back and forth about Form As all the time, right?
Yeah, sure.
But if 23A came into us today as a standalone Form A on Cross Street, we would approve it? It would be a recommendation to approve it or no?
I'd have to see a plan. I'm not gonna approve something based on hypotheticals. I gotta see something in front of me.
All right. So, Mr. Silva, waiver request and justification, okay?
Yeah, I think that what Pat was asking you is 23A, that as it stands right now on this plan, is an approvable Form A lot.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure, but then there's still parcel A. Yada,
Right.
yada, yada.
All right, you got it.
Notwithstanding the parcel A.
So you understand what Mr. O'Brien's looking for, Mr. Silva, that
Yes.
a formal written waiver request and justification.
Justification for it.
Okay. Anything else, Mr. O'Brien?
Nope, that's it. Let's vote.
I'm trying to get everybody out of here by 10:30 tonight. That's my goal.
Oh, God.
All right, so do we have a motion to continue to September 4th?
So moved.
By Mr. McDonald, do we have a second?
Second.
Was
Second by
that-
Astrid.
All right, so I'll take the roll. Ms. Rojas,
Yes.
the Haley,
Yes.
McDonald,
Yes.
Mr. Geller,
Yes.
I'm a yes. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. This looks like it's SEA night, right? I've got another one up. Okay, I'll go to item 3 on the agenda. There's no public hearing notice to read. These are public hearings continued. I'll open up the hearing for 815 Bedford Street, map 88, lot 23. This is a site plan review under section 10.6 for a new commercial retail building, as well as self-storage facilities and other site improvements. This has been continued again from August 7th, 2024. I'll open it up to the applicant for their presentation.
Good evening, Larry Silva from Silva Engineering Associates, along with Rebecca Baptista. And so when we last met, we gave you the preview, which basically showed you the revised site plan, lacking some of the detail to add to it. And once we added all those details to it, you then had a more formal review. We just received, I believe it was today, the technical review for those revised plans, although we did know what the issues were to address them. And so the package as we submitted it to you included updated architecturals. It had updated landscaping. It had all the bells and whistles that you were looking for as you were in the first application. That's a view of the landscaping update. So in essence, this is the plan that maintains the vegetated buffer 20 feet around the site, and it is basically what we believe is the plan that addresses the comments and concerns that were voiced in the past by the board and others. So there are since the last meeting till now, just to refresh your memory, we have two driveways that are now on Bedford Street. We have no driveways on Romney except for sort of a service emergency exit on the backside of where the controlled environment storage building is. So where that climate control building is, there is an access point for a fire engine if it needed to come in from there as opposed to the main entrance. And that's provided. That's the only actual element of Romney Road as it relates to itself. The two entrances on Bedford Street, the main entrance is the one to the north. It's an in and an out. And the one that's further to the south is a truck entrance only. And that's for vehicles to come in and to go around the backside of the Ace Hardware building, the commercial building, building A. And it is not connected, just so that you remember, it's not connected to the parking area that's in the front of the building. There's a definite vertical elevation difference between the back of that parking area and that entrance drive. Because in order for the entrance drive to work for the truck entrance, it has to be down at an elevation that's quite a bit lower at Bedford Street. So pretty much the way that the original plans show in terms of function between the front building and the back building, the difference is now that the back building is not it's not a series of buildings. It's a single building with a single loading area on the east side of it. It has an office that's up in the northeast corner. And it has a control gate entrance, which is at the midpoint of the northern face. And then there's also a gate it's along the eastern face, right around where those two nice yellow marks were placed. And as you can see, the bridge that has been designed for this project is significant. This is a very large infiltration basin, which will control runoff from the site, because there will be none. It'll be all infiltrated with an overflow that would be down in the eastern end towards Bedford Street for the Noah's Ark storm. But for everything else, everything gets controlled.
Hello?
Yeah, he stopped.
I froze.
He'll come back, I hope.
Batteries.
It was the Noah's Ark thing.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, drainage. Let's see. He doesn't even know he froze. Larry, you froze for a good 2 minutes, maybe a minute there, actually.
Right after you said Noah's Ark, Larry, so
You
anything
disappeared
after
for like
that,
a
you gotta
minute.
repeat.
Can you hear me?
We couldn't hear you for 1 minute. You said Noah's Ark and you disappeared.
Wow.
Could you repeat Noah's Ark again and continue?
No, I'm saying is that on the eastern side of the large detention basin is the overflow structure, which flows in the direction of sort of Bedford and Bedford Street, in that direction over there. That's because you always have to have a low spot in a basin that allows for the critical overflow point. You can't have everything be at the same elevation and just have it cascade everywhere if there was ever that kind of a situation. We have a maintenance road that goes around the backside of the basin for, obviously for that purpose of maintenance. And pretty much pretty much that's really of what the changes are. I know that there were some questions that were raised about when we do the clearing, and we're trying to keep all those trees in that first 20 feet. If we encounter some trees that still have to come out in those areas, there's a plan to do some infilling of some white pines in some of those areas if for some reason
Mr. Sullivan,
something had to come out of it.
not to interrupt you, but just while you're on that 20-foot buffer, just looking at this plan that's right in front of us right now.
Yeah.
There appears to be no grading changes in that first 20 feet, correct? There's no.
It's no activity within that 20 feet. The only place in that 20 feet that there's any activity is where that driveway comes out of the backside of the climate control building to tie into Romney Road. That's the only place.
I guess where I get confused or concerned was when that landscape plan came out today. It shows rows of white pines in the back in that 20-foot, but that's really not going to happen. That's only if you have to remove stuff, you're going to replace it. Is that correct?
That's correct.
That's along the edge of the 20-foot, and yeah.
So, all right. So are those plants going to be planted anyway inside the 20-foot to give additional screening? Or are those meant to be like infill if they cut a big tree down?
It's going to be infill, or if there are shown that there are some sort of obvious open spots in there that could use some trees in there in order to achieve what we're trying to achieve here.
I mean, I think the goal is screening, right? And just like the last hearing, I don't think we want you to cut nice mature trees to plant, but if they're needed for infill, that's when they'll be done. I just wanted to make sure, because when you look at the grading plan, there's no grading proposed.
No, we're not grading in there.
But then when you look at this plan, it looks like you're wiping everything out and planting a row of trees. And I just wanted to make sure we're on the same page. That's all.
No, I think is there a note about that, those white pines, Rebecca?
I didn't read through all of her notes, but we can make sure it's revised with a note like that.
Yeah, I mean, the grading is what's important to me. I mean, there's no grading so that grading stays exactly the same for the first 20 feet. So
absolutely. And
then if something does get cut, it'll be infilled with a native white pine.
Yeah, if there's something in that 20-foot stretch that is obvious, had to come out for whatever reason, and not doing well because it's just too big, ready to fall once you take the other stuff around it down, or it's sort of a danger to the new building that's going in, then that's when you would opt to put in replacement white pines.
Okay, thank you. I didn't mean to cut you off. You just on screening. I saw that.
I think that's pretty much the overview. I know everybody's and it's late, but we've spent a lot of time to address all the issues, trying to get it to the point where the board would be satisfied with this adjustment, and we're really hoping that my client is able to start construction in a way that is able to get something in this year.
So one of the in Mr. Tanzi's review, and then he made some additional comments today. He mentioned the cut and fill analysis, but then his second comment, if I recall, said there was about 35,000 cubic yards being removed from the site.
That was originally.
With this rework, is there less material being removed from the site?
Substantially less.
Do you have any idea, ballpark, how much material is being removed from the site now? Half of that, or?
I didn't finish the analysis. I'll have to get it to you. It wasn't half.
You mean less than half or more than half, or?
More than half, reduced by about a third.
You cut, so if it's 30, you went down to about 20 roughly?
Yes.
So I guess my one comment would be is just with other businesses in the area and keeping those businesses operating and everything else. Mr. O'Brien, I'm sure we'll have earth removal hours that'll be part of the site plan anyway, and then some dust control measures that'll be implemented. Is that correct?
Yeah, we would typically ask for Mr. Silva's aware of erosion control and sedimentation control plans, as well as we always have pre-construction meetings with the applicants, as well as typical hours of operations, as to be respectful of those in the area, as well as information about a construction entrance, which clearly comes off of Bedford Street, as well as if the construction entrance or any interference with traffic, that police detail be on site. So those are typical things that we are part of the decision. Mr. Silva places in his general conditions. But yeah, those are typical things that we watch as per all projects.
And if you look at the plan that's on the screen, that is the erosion and sedimentation control that are on that. You have an entrance. It shows the controls around the site, so that we've already dealt with making sure that these are in the plan.
I know Mr. Tanzi had submitted some new comments today. Mr. Tanzi, do you feel any of those are those just minor adjustments at this point, or is there anything that's really a sticking point with you that you don't think can be resolved as part of a condition, or what are your thoughts on that?
Well, one of my biggest concerns is where the groundwater is, where the seasonal high groundwater is. There's I guess you'd call it a dispute or where the groundwater is. The test pits were done. Mr. Silver had said that some of these models are not really models. They're variegated colors, which aren't indicative of the groundwater table. So the seasonal high groundwater that he was identifying in the test pits this round were adjusted to being lower than where they were in the first submittal. And what I was suggesting is just have a PVC perforated pipe, a 4-inch pipe, set it in the locations of the test pits, and shoot the grades of the pipe and measure down during the seasonal high groundwater season, and you can accurately put to bed any disputes as to where these groundwater tables are. If my concern with groundwater is it can affect the ability of these detention basins to infiltrate. They can result in standing water in the basins. You can, it brings a lot of, pestilence and so forth. The other thing is I'd have to take a look at where the grades are of the parking areas, but if the parking areas are within seasonal high groundwater, you can get hydrostatic pressures that can really desecrate the pavement of a parking area or a road. So that's basically my primary concern is the groundwater and an accurate assessment as to where it is.
McPhail Associates, I provided to Mr. Tanzi in opposition on this. McPhail Associates did a geotech evaluation for the project. They evaluated the soils and the conditions out there, and they agree with me that the groundwater is typically in the 6 to 66.7 range, which is when you go from the alluvial deposits, which is this whole site, and then you get down to the glacial lake materials that are below that, and which basically support the wetland system that is to the south. they did test borings, and in those test borings, they clearly showed exactly what was there, and their conclusions were exactly what I am saying about the site itself. And also, I mean, keep in mind what we're saying here is the elevations that they're talking about in their report and what I'm talking about are really just what Street and Romney Road up. I mean, to suggest groundwater is higher than that is not the case.
Respectfully, Mr. Sylvia, that report that was just on the screen, McPhail themselves didn't sound all that confident in the reading, given the first sentence.
I don't understand what you're saying that.
Given that the borings were completed with the use of water, the elevation of the groundwater level was difficult to determine within the completed borings.
Mm-hmm.
So it, to me, that just reads like, you know, they're not 100%.
That's why they're saying that, you know, if it's 4.6 or 66.7, they're not talking about, they're talking about when you get down past the alluvial material, sands and gravels, and that you get into the silts and clays. That's where they were saying that it was a little bit difficult to say, is it 64.6 or is it 66.7, that there's like a 2 foot plus or minus in there. And that's what they were referring to.
I understand. So you're saying that's like, there's not usually a range to that extent in these kind of borings.
No, I mean, usually if they're coming up with something which they think they, you know, maybe plus or minus a foot, but when they're saying 2 feet, that's a little bit more for them. But quite honestly, what they're really saying, it has to do with the type of material, and it's true. The reason why the topography is what it is because those are sand and gravel deposits that were on top of what was the original glacial lake. And that's where so if you take how topography is formed, in a lot of cases, it's the glacial lake is the bottom, and then everything that goes up from there is deposited on the original glacial lake. And that's what they're referring to in their report.
So I believe I understand. Thank you.
So, Mr. Tansey, the one, and not to try to, the one really remaining issue with you is the groundwater. Is that correct?
Well, yeah, I think that's my one primary concern. The other stuff I think can be cleaned up without too much of an issue. I just want to make sure that we don't have detention basins that don't infiltrate, that have standing water, and that we don't have conditions where we're going to have interception of groundwater or a perched water table that could cause hydrostatic pressures beneath the pavement that could cause the parking lot to be to crack and heave and, you know, consequently be compromised structurally.
So I guess what you described, though, the pipe in the ground and monitoring the elevations in the seasonal, in that seasonal period. So you're talking I mean, that would be a major delay at this point, right? They would have to put pipes in, that have to monitor the water table throughout the wet season, so to speak. Is that
yes, that's correct.
So how, and that just seems like it's a huge delay to this project. How, is there a way that we could condition that, you know, if groundwater levels are proven to be different, they have to come back and adjust the plan? Or how could we make sure that your concern is addressed, but get the project to move along at this point? Do you have any suggestions?
Well, you can condition it if you feel comfortable doing so. The issue is if you get out there and you start grading, and you know you're in the middle of the project, and all of a sudden the site becomes a real erosion issue because you've got groundwater bleeding and saturating disturbed soils. It's a very large site. There's going to be a lot of disturbance once ground, um, uh, grading operations start to, go underway, fixing it at that time is, it's not the best way to go about it. I don't see why we can't do some confirmatory test pits, and, I'll witness them. I'll take a look at what we've got.
So
And
that was my next question. You haven't been out there to witness any of these test pits yet?
no, I didn't witness any of them. And there's no indication that, and the only other person that would be qualified to witness them would be either Azu or the health agent. And there's no indication that anybody from the town has witnessed these test pits. Now, the applicant has, he said that seasonal high groundwater was at one elevation on the first submittal, and then he adjusted it lower on this submittal, which means, I don't know what to make of it. Which one is right?
Well, for the one part of it is because the test pit locations were not surveyed after they were done. And so that the elevations were shown as the starting elevation from our original base plan with the locations as they were from the field notes. I sent survey crew back out to locate the specific locations to make sure, because there is a lot of variance in topography there, to make sure that we did have an accurate starting point for each one of those. And that's why there is a difference. But the other part of it is, and I just ask you this, Mr. Tanzi, the site that's immediately to the north of that is Gabriel's site, correct? The Gabriel construction site?
Yes.
Okay. And Gabriel construction site has an office building in the front, which is down at the Bedford Street grade. And behind it is a big area that they use for all their work that they do. That whole area in the back was the same original grade as this site. It was connected to the site, and it was the same original. If you're saying accurate, then we would be having that place flooding with groundwater in the back. That's what I'm saying. It's just not a groundwater situation.
Mr. Silver and Mr. Tanzi, what did you, if you recall, what was the how large was the discrepancy between the first test and the second test, roughly?
I think there's a couple of feet.
So, and just trying to resolve this so we can move forward. We have a meeting in 2 weeks. I want to try to wrap. Can Mr. To put this dispute to rest one way or another, is it possible? And I'm just throwing this out there. I don't even know if this is a good idea. Is it possible to get Mr. Tanzi and Mr. Silva together in the next 2 weeks so we can get this thing done, and get those witnessed in the next 2 weeks? Is there time to do that? I want to resolve this issue so we can get them, get them going, because it seems like they've done everything else with the site as far as screening and layout and everything else, and it's just we keep coming back to this water table issue. Is that
you don't agree? What you're saying, Mr. Tan, you don't agree with what McPhail Associates says either?
I didn't get a chance to review that document. It just came in to me at 5:11 this afternoon.
Well, we resent it to you today, but it had been sent earlier, months ago. But
I hadn't seen it. I hadn't reviewed it.
Mr. O'Brien, any comment or question at this point?
On the dispute? No. No, I think I do agree with Mr. Tanzi in terms of concerns, because Mr. Tanzi and I have gone to sites in terms of areas where a detention basin has been placed, and water is not emptying as quick as possible. I don't think we say it in a way that we're trying to argue that the salt in terms of the groundwater issues. I think we're just trying to prevent a problem from occurring prior to it happening. or if it could possibly not happen. But I think, yeah, in terms of comments provided by Mr. Tanzi, they were received by us and sent over to the applicant for today. As well as I believe, Silva Engineering needs an opportunity to respond, as well as if there's time between the next meeting, this meeting and next, to get to a resolution regarding that, whether it be from a design standpoint or just an engineering agreement standpoint. I think that's important.
But
I think
I just also think, and we've had other people look at this, McPhail and Mr. Silver, and although I agree with Mr. Tanzi that two qualified people in town, Mr. Antonero and Mr. Badger, could witness them, I think it would be, where he's reviewing this, is this something you could accommodate over the next 2 weeks, Mr. Tanzi?
Yeah.
you gotta get Larry to agree.
Well, I just want to get, my concern is that if we start to do these PVC things, I mean, we're going to be delayed months. I'd like to, get this moving if we can. That's me, though.
Mr. Tanzi, what time of the year does this high groundwater season that you'd like to see the testing occur and take place? That be
Well,
spring?
the soil evaluations can be done at any time, but if you wanted to determine the seasonal high groundwater through monitoring, that has to be done in the February, March seasonal high groundwater seasons.
But just so we don't waste anybody's time, you feel, Mr. Tanzi, that if you meet Mr. Silver and his team out there, and you witness the test pits in the areas that you're concerned about, that we can do that sooner instead of waiting? Is that accurate?
Oh, absolutely. If he wants to do that, that's fine.
And I think just in terms of monitoring throughout construction, if we get to the point of an approval, I think it's appropriate to monitor the groundwater or whatever through the process, just to kind of see if adjustments need to be made through the construction process. Because as we all know, through the construction process, there may be some surprises. And then we're back before the board saying, oh, by the way, we have this, or there's some field changes that staff has to look over and see if it's appropriate, whether it be through a minor modification or just from an administrative review standpoint.
Okay, so Mr. Tanzi, I don't want to cut you off. Do you have anything else to add before I ask for other board comments or public comments? I mean, you'll connect with Mr. Silver.
Yeah, sure. But I don't have any really further comments to offer.
You provided some today, right? Okay.
Correct.
All right, board members, comments, questions? Mr. McDonald, Mr. Geller, Ms. Rojas, Mr. Haley?
None.
Not at this time.
Nope, it's just the groundwater thing. That's my only potential concern, and hopefully we can get that resolved quickly and get them moving.
All right, this is a public hearing that's continued. At this point, I'll open it up to members of the public. Anybody that has a comment on the project, question, please state your name and address for the record, please.
Please raise your virtual hand.
Yeah, I should say.
Or okay, hands. Virtual hand raised, or reach out to me in the chat.
I'm going through it. I don't see anybody.
Nope, I do not see any virtual hands raised at this time.
But just to circle back, I know we did receive Mr. Tanzi's comments today, and they were just going through the old letter and then the new letter. He's looking for that cut and fill analysis, and I think the big issue is the groundwater. So are there any other major issues before the 4th that we need to resolve, so we could, assuming everything is confirmed to be accurate, Mr. Tanzi, so we could try to get them to a decision? Or are those the main issues, the cut and fill and the drainage?
Yeah, those are the main issues. A lot of the other issues they've taken care of, and yeah, the others are, I think, just cleanup issues.
And Mr. Silva has received the letter as of today, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
All right. I mean, the good news is we're only in 2 weeks, we have another meeting. So let's try to get everybody together and get what we need to get. This has been before us for a while now. So, are you in agreement with that, as the applicant, to continue this to September 4th?
Yes.
And
Do we-
Mr. Chair, before the next meeting, I can draft up some conditions of decisions. I mean, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I mean,
Conditions for a decision.
If Mr. Silver and Mr. Tanzi could connect like tomorrow to get a date and get that done. And I do, personally, I really do think we've had other people look at it. Mr. Silver's looked at it, Mr. Tanzi's doing the analysis. I mean, I can't direct town employees, but I think it'd be great if Mr. Tanzi could do it as opposed to somebody on his staff or somebody else, but it's up to him. But I just think it'd be great for him to be out there and see it so we can try to put it to bed one way or another.
Yeah, I'll adjust my schedule to accommodate Mr. Silver as efficiently as I can.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Tanzi. All right, so do we have a motion to continue to September 4th?
So moved.
Motion.
So, Mr. McDonald, do you want to second it, Mr. Haley?
Yes.
Mr. Haley? Any discussion? So just discussion, I just want to thank the applicant. I mean, we gave him a lot of feedback through these hearings, and I think the site plan has come a long way, and I just hope that we can confirm the groundwater and move on. If not, it'll have to be adjusted, so. But so we have a motion and a second. I'll take the roll. Mr. Haley?
Yes.
Ms. Rojas?
Yes.
Mr. Geller?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
I'm a yes. So we do have another continued public hearing on item 3. I own an abutting property, Mr. McDonald, so I have to recuse myself again for 0 Winter Street. Do you have the agenda in front of you? And I'll go doc for a while.
Yes, sir.
All right, go ahead, sir.
Alrighty. So before us is a continued public hearing for 0 Winter Street, a definitive subdivision approval of a 4-lot subdivision with a previously approved preliminary subdivision proposed by Oliari LLC located within Residential C and Business B district. This was continued from the August 7th meeting. Do I have any notice to read for this one, Mr. O'Brien?
No, we'll just let Silva Engineering talk some more.
That's good.
I'm tired of talking.
Rebecca's here.
Yeah, that's right. And this is actually what she should do on this one here. This is the 4-lot subdivision Hampton. And there was a review that was done. Comments were received, and we made a response that addressed most of the items. There were a few outstanding items, which we are basically, we have them all set to go. We've already made adjustments in the plans for most of them. And we had a letter, Rebecca, did a letter go to Shane for that?
Yeah, I got a draft letter.
I'll put it up on the screen. Give me a moment. It takes a moment.
That's fine.
Because I've
No,
accidentally shared things I shouldn't be, so I'm very careful now.
Happens.
Wait for it. Did I do it wrong? I did it wrong. Hang on. Convert.
As long as it wasn't in front of this board, that's fine.
No, I believe it was Concom.
Well, while she's doing that, I just want to let you know is that unrelated to what's before you, remember there was that whole issue about the zone line. And that zone line change there is there are things in to try to dovetail, with this here in terms of the work being done here. If it doesn't, then lot one doesn't get developed until that issue gets resolved. You can see the residential C business zone line there. We're trying to have that adjusted. Okay,
There's
so
only a few
that-
outstanding comments from Tansy's last letter, and most of it was housekeeping. I've actually mostly done all of them. There was a comment on a detail. I have fixed the detail. There was check dams to be added to the other side. See, I got them here. So the request was to add them on both sides. It's housekeeping. We got it taken care of. Submission to conservation is being prepared. That's the next step. We're gonna take the outfall to conservation for approval, this section right here. And there's a note on the plan saying that this lot one would require its own submission to conservation for approval, separate to all of this. Detail about the head wall to be added to the plans on it. Zoning information corrected. I added a note about the Aquifer Protection Overlay District, that we needed to comply with it, to satisfy that comment. Street trees, added it. It'll be in the next plan set. Utilities, we've added it as well. Results of a cut and fill analysis are almost done. I had too many to do all at once. And we've added the stop sign and street sign, for the next plan set. Little housekeepings. That's
Yeah,
all
and
I
we
have.
kind of feel that we're at the point now that with these just housekeeping issues, what we would be asking of the board is to approve the subdivision with the condition that these minor items be reflected in the final set of plans for endorsement. And obviously you'd have a letter back from staff saying that we did do all those things exactly the way we said we did. There's nothing big in there at all.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Silva. We'll start with town staff. Mr. O'Brien, anything for us?
No, no, I reviewed the draft letter that I just recently got, and there's, like you said, there's nothing, the applicant's gonna have to go through an NOI process that would require review as well as certificate of compliances through Conservation Commission, so I typically like to treat those matters outside it. It may affect some things, but nothing to the extent where it affects the overall roadway layout from my perspective. No, in terms of the review of this process, we looked at it from a preliminary standpoint, and the changes that have been made are appropriate based on our subdivision rules and regulations. The applicant is asking for one waiver, but that's more of management, more of a private subdivision management sort of situation, which I don't have any issue with. But overall, yeah, I'm satisfied with how this project is developed. Whether the zone change happens or not, I don't see a real issue in terms of the development of lot one. You know, I don't have any concerns that that property will be split off into becoming a commercial outlet. You know, we typically have language preventing splits from occurring beyond that, but you know, I'm satisfied to see a zone change move forward. Mr. Silva and I have discussed that in another meeting in terms of that, as well as some other additional properties. But no, I think the overall layout is appropriate, and I'm fine with the conditions of conditionally approving the subdivision, subject to the receipt of the information prior to endorsement. So I would leave that up to the board to include as well as an additional condition of approval. I know I provided a memo with some consideration of comments, but that Mr. Silva's draft, Silva Engineering's draft response letter be placed into the record, as well as those comments be addressed per the receipt of that comment letter.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. And what waiver is being requested? I'm trying to pull it up here, but I can't.
On the first page, it talks about, I think it's like a wall or head wall,
A
retaining wall.
retaining
So
wall.
it's, section 5B20 about retaining walls that, they be constructed outside the road layout. So being that the road is gonna be, private maintenance, it's gonna be the maintenance of the wall is gonna be responsibility of the HOA rather than the whomever, the homeowners.
And if you want to know what wall we're referring to, it's right along here. It is. Let me get my, there's a retaining wall right in here. That's probably not the best tool. Right in here.
I get what you mean. Thank you. Perfect.
That's well, that one, but yeah.
I mean,
Okay,
it might be possible for us to get a grading easement. At this point, there is no such agreement, so that's why the wall is proposed. And the regulation that we were talking about, waiver, that was one that goes back to I'm dating myself here, goes back to the Andy Baggis days, in which he did not want to see any retaining walls within a right of way that the town was going to be responsible for. Okay, so that's the reason why that bylaw exists. But this is a private way, staying private way, and that issue actually reinforces that it stays private, quite honestly.
Understood. Thank you. Mr. Tanzi, anything from you on this?
I did review this latest submittal and, my latest comment letter. Most of the vast majority of the comments have been satisfied. There are one or two minor ones that are outstanding, but they are minor, very minor in nature. So, that's all I have.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Any board questions or comments at this point?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay. Any public comment? I
Alright,
doubt
let
it, but
me
we'll.
look if any virtual hands are raised. I have to clap really loud to wake people up. I don't see any virtual hands raised, nor do I see anyone in the chat. So I don't have any comments or anyone in favor or against this project.
Alrighty. So my only question, I just want to make sure I fully understand the situation. Because it's a bit confusing with the zoning thing. So if the zoning change that they're trying to acquire does not go through, lot 1 will not be buildable as it is proposed on these plans. Is
No,
that correct?
it's buildable, but the area that's buildable is in the corner of the lot. If you
It's
look
the
on
area-
that grading page,
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's the area that is shown. That is why.
it affects how the lot is developed, that's all.
Okay, so you just have to change the layout a little bit.
Yeah, in other words, you gotta put the house in the corner of the lot in order to stay within the zone.
Yeah,
Okay,
so the
excellent.
building box itself, Michael, would expand as what we saw for the preliminary subdivision. So they would be able to place the house.
Pretty much
And-
over
and
next to that benchmark over there.
Yeah, so that would adjust there, and then they could come in with like a minor subdivision modification.
It's if they wanted to. I mean, they could still leave the house where we have it now.
Yeah, it's just where it's located now, it complies. It's just I think that you guys would agree it's a topographical nightmare.
It
It's a
just
land-
means that you gotta be creative in your house design, that's
I was
all.
gonna say, it's a landscaping wonderland.
It's a contractor's dream.
Okay.
And if
I
it
have no
gets-
further
and-
questions at this
and-
time.
And if it gets moved, you're not gonna be able to divide that lot, correct?
Correct. You can't
No, you
divide
can't divide the lot, no.
you can't divide lots for a definitive subdivision for, I believe, 8 years.
Well, it's not only that, this is a 4 lot under the criteria for a 4 lot.
Sure, you're modifying a subdivision to be on, 4 lots.
So you're gonna have to build it all out.
Okay, excellent. I have no further questions.
Steve, did you have something?
Nope, I'm good.
Cool.
Well, I guess at this point, would it be appropriate to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Haley,
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien, sorry, Mr. Geller,
Yes.
Mrs. Rojas,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Passes 4-0. Okay, so as far as next steps, it sounds to me like we can do you have a pre-done set of conditions, Mr. O'Brien, for this?
Yeah, I provided a memo. Let me pull it up. It was already up. Screen. So I did provide a memo to the board. I forget what date recently, prior to the last meeting, with the typical recommended conditions, in terms of hours of construction, estimated start date work, lot release information, in terms of siltation. It remains a private way with a homeowners association that we would receive draft documents prior to recording for review. Maintenance bond information in terms of maintenance of drainage structures, just in case if they try to go for a street acceptance. I understand that we just keep that caveat in there just in case. Street lights would be provided as shown. If they're providing them, the applicant provides surety. Any easements recorded at the registry prior to lot release. Applicant, submit information for our review, information about a homeowners association, building certificate of occupancies prior to lot releases, annual reports about drainage basin conditions, sedimentation control plans, information about roadway sections, making sure they're witnessed by a town engineer. The validity of this approval for 2 years. Once again, street acceptances, even though that is private, but we just keep it in there. As well as street tree planting. If not provided already, a water impact form, as well as if, I think I added 32 that they'll come before the planning board subdivision modification where a proposed business use would be proposed on the private roadway. So throw that caveat in there just in case. I see a commercial zone in a residential area, and I always just kind of try to tie it up. So yeah, just making sure that the HOA ties the deeds to the roadways and everything's all honky dory. So
Excellent. And then will we need to condition any thing for just the minor issues from Mr. Tanzi's report, or
yeah, we can add an additional condition 33, making sure that all subsequent comments are addressed prior to endorsement of the that plan. So I can add that as a condition. I think I just have to touch up the order of operations for this as well too, because typically I would have it as information that's required prior to endorsement. So I would add that as a condition that I'll indicate is prior to endorsement of plan that all these comments be addressed.
Sounds good. As far as the waiver goes, personally, I have no issue with it. Mr. Haley, Mr. Gaylor, Mrs. Rojas, any thoughts?
No, I'm fine with it.
No.
Okay, sounds good. I think that we wraps up the discussion phase. Do we have a motion on the waiver?
I would leave it up to we want to do the waiver separately, or we want to add it as part of the decision.
I think
yeah, it kind of works either way, I suppose.
Yeah, whatever you guys want to do.
Tie it in like we did with the last one. So I'll make a motion to approve 01 Street defined subdivision. With the stated conditions and the addition of all the comments will be put into the plans before endorsement. And we will approve the waiver as requested.
Motion by Mr. Geller. Do we have a second?
I can second.
Second by Mrs. Rojas. Any further discussion? I'll do the roll call. Mr. Haley,
Yes.
Mr. Geller,
Yes.
Mrs. Rojas,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Passes 4-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's
Good night,
not
Larry.
midnight yet, is it?
No, it's
Not
not like
quite.
it's not like the good old days when we met in person and these meetings would go out to midnight.
Yes, I've been
It's
at
like-
many that went past midnight.
It's a lot
Then we'll
quicker
have-
now.
We'll have to
No,
drive
no.
home, so.
We need to start meeting in person again. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good night.
All right, take care.
All right, I believe Mr. Driscoll has rejoined us, so I will turn it back over to him.
Took a little nap. I'm good. All right. All right, continuing on, item 5. This is the establishment of a covenant and a request for a lot release. This is known as 385 North Street. This was a 3-lot subdivision that we approved, and the note says to hold the 3 lots in covenant, but we're requesting lot 1 to be released at this point. Mr. O'Brien, I'll turn this over to you.
Sure.
yeah.
We haven't.
Yeah,
Yep. So we get a request from Bob Iafredi, who's the owner of the property for 385 North Street. I had a pre-construction meeting with him. He's provided all the information about his construction schedule. They're looking to clear the lots and start work relatively soon. So I did let him know that we need to establish covenant because I know that they filed a building permit recently, but we need to establish covenant first. Plan needs to be recorded, which is why part of this discussion is part of his request. So we're looking to establish covenant, which is fine by me. But he's also looking for a request for lot 1 to be released from the covenant as well. So we're establishing covenant. He's going to record the plan. And we'll condition that as well as release of lot 1, because what I let them know is that the covenant can be recorded tomorrow, the plan can be recorded tomorrow, but the lot release itself requires 3 signatures of the planning board. So that'll take a little bit of time. So it's spaced out enough where I think that an action to release lot 1 as well as establish covenant at the same meeting is fine, as well as the release of 1 lot without necessarily receipt of surety just yet. You know, the existing property was a single family with a garage on it, and to release 1 lot, I don't think I don't think that prevents the applicant from moving forward with the other 2, as well as you know, doing some roadway work. So I don't have any issue with the request for the establishment of covenant, as well as if the board votes to release lot 1 as well.
So Shane, we've done this in the past, but just prior to lots 2 and 3, or however they're numbered, the remaining 2, we'll release 1 now. Then prior to lot release of those others, whatever's remaining to be done on the road, a bond would have to be placed, correct?
That'd be correct. You know, unless Mr. Iafredi, in the goodness of his heart, completes the roadway up to our standards. But yeah, typically at the point of additional lots, we would request some sort of surety based on work that's needed to be done. And depending on what he's comfortable with, I guess it's either the release of 2 lots or it's a release of 1 more lot and we hold 1 more in terms of work that needs to be done. So we'll cross that road when we get there, but right now I feel like 1 for 1 is not a bad deal.
Okay, and you and Mr. Solari are both okay with that, correct?
Yeah, that's what we. I can't speak on behalf of Steve, but we both
Yes.
attended a pre-construction.
Yes.
We both attended a pre-construction meeting with Mr. Iafredi, and I think we're doing our best to follow process as best as we can in the neatest way. So it's refreshing to an extent, but yeah, I think I'm good with it.
All right, so we'll take a vote on that to establish a covenant and release lot. It doesn't say one lot, it says lot one.
It's lot one on the, I can pull up the subdivision really quick, just so.
That lot one's almost a Form A, if I remember anyway, right?
Yeah, it's the lot, and let me just pull it up quick.
You want the
Just so
site
we
plan?
have some context of it. Oh, yeah. So you have some visual aid. Can I move it? Too many things on my screen.
Hopefully we have a signed plan on record, right, somewhere?
Yeah, you endorsed the plan. They just couldn't record it without the covenant.
Right, so. Yeah,
So lot one's this lot over here. It's a little larger, but yeah, it doesn't preclude anything. It's literally actually where the house used to be.
And even if the road never got built, it'd just basically be a Form A. All right, that's fine.
Yeah, essentially. So that's that's the request, and I'm fine with it for now.
All right, so if there is other discussion, let's discuss it. If not, we'll have a motion to establish to hold 3 lots in covenant and release lot 1 on what's it, Old Stable?
Yeah, Old Stable Estates, or 385 North Street.
Do we have that motion?
So moved.
By Mr. McDonald? Second by Mr. Haley. Is that Mr. Haley?
Yes.
Yeah. Any discussion? Mr. Geller?
Yes.
Mr. Rojas?
Yes.
Mr. Haley?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
I'm a yes. Okay.
All right, we need 3 board members to come in and sign. We'll figure it out. I'll shoot an email tomorrow.
We have a couple decision letters too. Why don't you try to bang out everything? We'll just.
Yeah, decision letters, and I have some plans as well too. You need to sign Pat, so
We'll try to-
yeah, I'll give everyone the heads up when they're all ready.
Because it's tough to get people in there, get everybody in to sign whatever we need to sign, you know?
Yeah, unfortunately, we work when you guys are working.
All right, item 5, board business, just while Mr. Tanzi's on here, I asked Shane to put this on here, 900 Elm Street, and that's Lucini's. I saw there's a lot of paving going on up there. Do we know what's going on with that site? Is anybody aware of what's going on?
We need to follow up with DEP. We let Conservation Commission let DEP know of a cease and desist about 2 months ago or so. But we're gonna have to follow up with DEP in terms of the progress on that. I know that DEP doesn't necessarily move quickly. There's items that they go to a site visit and then find violations about a year and change later.
But they just built a huge parking lot. Did we permit that parking lot? Is that parking lot permitted?
There's nothing over there that's been permitted. Nothing.
So that
other than the first.
I know the first reason we had this carried on the agenda was they built a bridge through wetlands potentially and did a big parking lot up by the highway. But what I'm talking about is to the right now, if you're looking at the current building to the right, they paved a ton of the parking lot, and I don't remember ever permitting that.
Oh, no, there's nothing. I would have to look at the original site plan decision to see if that was covered, but I just based on the fact that we're talking about a violation there, I think it's more of just kind of continuation of that.
Could we pull up the approved site plan and take a look at that? I think that'd be helpful because I don't recall approving it, and I think it was just built recently with no oversight. No, it doesn't look like any stormwater, nothing. So, could we have a copy of that plan sent to us?
Yeah, I can send it to you. I don't know if I necessarily have it in front of me right now.
No, we don't. We don't need it.
We can have if we want to maintain discussion and place it on the September 4th agenda. But I'll send along the last approved site plan modification that came before this board, and we can discuss how things have gone beyond that.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Do we have any options to actually resolve the situation besides letters?
I would
I'm
say
not familiar
this,
with
I
this
would say
process.
that we have provided letters on a cease and desist. I would say that I think based on our discussion internally, the strongest case that there is the clear violation of DEP standards, as well as the potential filling of a wetland. So in the grand scheme of you know, chasing people down, I think that's the strongest case we have. Whereas other things involve court and the slow wheels moving of a government process.
Well, I
You
mean,
know,
I think we should take a look at what was approved and then maybe at some point, if this, I mean, this seems to be falling on deaf ears, maybe we need to loop the town attorney and just for some advice, what we can and can't do and what he
Sure.
can. So,
yeah,
all
that's
right.
fine.
We had some minutes for June 26th and July 17th. Does anybody want to make a motion to approve those?
So moved.
By Mr. Geller, any second?
Second.
Mr. Haley, any discussion? Mr. Haley?
No discussion, but yes.
Ms. Rojas?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mr. Geller?
Yes.
I'm a yes. Okay, so Shane, the next meeting, September 4th.
That is correct.
We continued 2 items to September 4th.
I believe it is, yes, 815 and 350 Cross Street.
At this point, do we anticipate any new applications?
Not before the 4th. There's always potential for A&R plans. But I don't see anything else coming through the woodwork by the 4th.
So right now, the agenda will be 350 Cross and 815 Bedford, is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
Um,
As well as the meeting after the next one, we're going to have a joint meeting with the CD committee pertaining to the 55 plus. So that'll be on for the September 18th meeting. We'll have the joint meeting.
Okay. All right, okie dokie. Do you, Mr. Rulli, have anything in terms of planning reports?
In terms of planners reports, I'll talk about the ADU in a second. We do have a potential violation of hours of operation for a special permit at a property at 434 Elm Street. It was approved in about, I think 2006 or 2000, I think 2006. With it's one of the few special permits we have with hours of operations 7 to 7 Monday through Friday. But from our understanding that the business leasing out of that building is running their operation beyond those hours. So I'm just looking permission from the board to send a letter over to the applicant or the tenant to say that they're in violation of the special permit, stay within the hours of 7 to 7. So so we're gonna send it to the applicant as well as the owner. The owners are out in Oakland, California, so I think it's stronger to send it over to the tenant as well. But we've been kind of working on this one for a while. Well, working and kind of dealing with this one for a while, but you know, I just wanted to kind of bring it up from the board's perspective in terms of pursuing action.
Let's do ADUs on the 4th. I mean, we have 6 months to resolve that. The guidelines aren't out yet. We've been here for 3.5 hours. Let's not get into ADUs tonight.
Yeah, I sent over some information. Look it over. Let me know if you need anything.
Okay. Well, I mean, and we don't even have guidelines from the state yet, right? Whether they have to be attached, not attached. You know, we can discuss that next. Are you okay with next meeting?
That's totally fine by me.
We only have 2 things on next meeting, and I've only been on for half of this meeting, and I'm exhausted, so I can imagine what you guys are like. So
I concur.
I can do another hour.
What's that?
I can go another hour.
I didn't hear no bell.
5 a.m. comes fast, people.
No 5 a.m. flights anywhere tomorrow, Steve, like usual. No.
Nope.
All right. Does that? Mr. Rojas, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I thought you were saying good night.
Not yet.
I think I'm hearing things in advance.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, we'll do ADUs next time. All right, well, we can put that on the agenda on the board business so you can educate us on that.
Sure.
All right. All right, so do we have a motion to adjourn item 6?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Haley, any discussion?
No, yes.
Mr. Rojas,
Yes.
Mr. Geller,
Yes.
Mr. McDonald,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Good night, everyone.
Night, everyone.
Good
Thank
night,
you so
everyone.
much.
Thank you.
Good night,
Take care.
everyone.